Japon, en famille.
Welcome everybody to the EVERCHOSEN Invitational.
It
is time. The top level Warhammer, Total War Warhammer 2 competitive tournament. Now we do these throughout the year. This is our 5th one. This marks our anniversary.
Yeah, we've been on quite a journey, man.
I know.
The real Mordor trip.
This has been our Frodo and Sam moment. I would carry you into Mount Doom any day.
Yeah,
any day.
Yeah,
have someone bite your finger off, but whatever.
It's great, man.
But to my right here, we have the mighty Turin.
Hey guys.
I am Italian Spartacus, and we also have on the casting desk to our left, which we'll cut to in just a little bit, the Lore Master of Sotek and the illustrious Party Elite, sitting pretty over there. But we have a pretty fun-filled day here for you guys. We have 8 top-level competitors. They're squaring off. They've been invited to a fun little tournament here. Again, this is using the lovely Total War Warhammer 2. So why don't you give us a little rundown about how the rules work for this, how this tournament as itself kind of breaks out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, it's going to be 2 full days of competition. The first day is going to be the quarterfinals, so it's going to be best of 3 showdown. So, all the games, day 1 are going to be best of 3. So, they're very fast, very rapid fire, and very intense. You know, if you go down a game, you can get dropped pretty quick. So, it's very, I mean, from experience of playing in tournaments and stuff, it can be quite stressful. But day 2, it's going to be slightly different. It's going to be best of 3s for the semifinals, but then for the grand finals, as well as the 3rd place match, it is going to be best of 5 matches.
Yeah, that's going to be a pretty long day. I mean, when you think about those, it's like an hour and a half for each one of those segments, 3rd place and finals.
Yeah, unless it's like a quick 3-0 or like a 2-0 or something like that. And we're also going to be using community rules. So we're going to be using King's Cup rules, which have been created by the community, and they're outstanding. They basically dictate the rules of engagement. They also have like army limits and things like that, because it is a very diverse game. And, you know, when you look at RTS games in general, right, like you look at, you know, other titles, they might have like 1 or 2 or 3 factions that you're going to be playing. But with this, you know, there's over 12, 14, 15, 16 factions, I think, now. And
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's really intense, and, you know, it can be difficult to balance. So community tournaments in conjunction with unit caps that have been put in place by Creative Assembly can, you know, make for some pretty good games. But rules of engagement are the big thing for sure, because within Total War Warhammer, for anyone who's new to the game, there's a campaign element, which is grand strategy,
It's huge. It's extensive. You can do just like the single Total War Warhammer 2 campaign. You can do the Mortal Empires, which combines everything from Total War Warhammer 1. It's pretty feverish.
Yeah, it's expansive, absolutely. And in campaign, that's where more of the base building element comes into play. So you're going to be building up infrastructure, taking territories. However, this tournament and the EVERCHOSEN Invitational Series and community tournaments in general really do focus on the battle aspect, which is very much like an RTS. It's you're commanding an army real time. You're not defending bases or assets. It's just basically, you know, 2 armies going fisticuffs and
slugging it out.
Yeah. So the tournament is going to be focused on multiplayer. We're using community rules, best of 3s, best of 5s, and yeah, we got some serious top level competitors for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and this is predominantly a community-driven event, right? Like, you've got you and me who are from the community. You've got Lore Master of Sotek and Party Elite.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you
the
host
whole
the whole band's back together.
Yeah.
I mean, you host your own tournament on your own channel, the Eternal Challenger League.
Yeah.
I host my own, the Warpstone Cup. I mean, so we are pretty familiar with doing this. I mean, comes from humble beginnings, right? EVERCHOSEN started in
a sweaty apartment.
Yeah, my sweaty apartment.
It was
fun.
AC going.
Yeah, we had a lot of AC. The computer only reset once, so it's fine.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, but you know, I think let's take a look at
some
of the competitors
into some bracket action.
Brackets.
Yeah, let's get some good breakdowns.
So, we're going to go a little bit of a reverse order here. So at the end of the day, we have Falcon facing off against King of the Dead.
Right. So we have Falcon, the mighty Falcon, who
the Dark Lord himself.
Indeed.
Of dragons, yeah.
Dragon guy. And he squared off against Loxlon Soothsayer in the finals last time, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very, very close match. I mean, it went to game 5, and anytime you can get that game 5 or that game 7 in a best of series, it's just it's so juicy. But
magnifique.
I mean, Falcon is a masterful player. He's very good at aggressive styles of play, going with blitz builds, using a lot of heavy cav with big alpha strike timing. So essentially what I mean by that is he'll get all of his resources on a weak side of a flank, and even if you're prepared for it, he'll come in, he'll have buffing magic, a lot of accentuating abilities and things like that, and man, he will just run over your formations, and it's hard to stop. Yeah. It's really, really tough to stop.
He does a really good job of like taking a lot of spells and just putting them on top of each other. Like Bjorna's Time Warp, which is a spell from the Lore of Light, to really get a lot of additional value out of things. False Protection, another one from the Lore of Light. So he does a lot of these like 1, 2, 3 punches that you don't see coming. Like you said, overloads a flank and pushes hard and deep.
Very aggressive style of play for sure.
he's going to be against King of the Dead, which is also a very big tournament player. He's been all over the place, and we've seen him in and out of the EVERCHOSEN. He's been in your Eternal Challenger. He's been in my Warpstone Cup. What do you know about King of the Dead that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as the name would infer, he does indeed play undead factions. So he's very good at Tomb Kings. You know, Vampire Coast is one of his main factions. So Vampire Counts, he doesn't play quite as much, but I would say that one of King's best assets is really compromising gun lines and defensive builds. So it's going to be a little bit tricky because Falcon typically doesn't bring too many missile units. I mean, he'll bring some skirmishers and things like that, but for the most part, it's going to be heavy cav. It's going to be dinosaurs riding dinosaurs. It's going to be dragons, just all sorts of aggressive stuff. And I feel one of King's biggest strengths is when he's using hounds or anti-skirmishing units, really just kind of cornering you, getting into your gun line, just chewing on all those juicy bits of your army, and it's really tough to stop. But again, the undead factions are all very, very strong, top tier for the most part. So being a specialist in factions that are just inherently very strong is a very huge benefit for him. So it could go either way. Now, as far as the last EVERCHOSEN, we of course had Falcon facing off against Talaxla and Soothsayer in the grand finals, but King of the Dead got a strong third place. He had a very good performance against Aerocrasic, who was a previous champion.
Exactly. He won our fourth one, or I'm sorry, our third one, correct?
Yeah, Aerocrasic did win our third EVERCHOSEN, and King of the Dead was able to really have a great showing and actually defeat him in the last EVERCHOSEN. So he clearly has the, what it takes to defeat a champion and really, bring someone down. So there could be an upset, and that's the thing about this EVERCHOSEN. I think from what we've had so far, this is probably the strongest roster of players we've ever had in an EVERCHOSEN Invitational.
Honestly, it's like everyone's like a seed one for the most part. It was pretty hard to like divvy up who would go where, and for the most part, I think this is from the quarterfinals all the way up until the finals. It's going to be a lot of pretty intense matches. 2-1s, hopefully going the full Monty when it comes to best of fives. Full Monty.
Just going in.
You just got to go up and down on it.
It's going to be great. Now for the next one, or the match before that, we have Talaxla and Soothsayer facing off against Chief. So Soothsayer is obviously a household name.
A reigning champion, right?
Reigning champion.
Twice over.
So he, in every single EVERCHOSEN he's played in, he's made it to the finals. Now he did end up losing one finals to Aerocrasic, which I think was probably the best game we've ever had in an EVERCHOSEN Invitational, was the Tomb Kings versus Chaos match.
Brutal. It was awesome. When he was the Kolek and you had, what's his name? Cetra the Imperishable.
On the chariot.
And he was just going all over the place. Like, that was a really intense match because you and I had both pitted it.
And it was a game 5 too.
Exactly, going one direction, then it totally swinging the other way as Cetra was just drifting through the whole entire map. Like, it was a lot of fun.
It was great. Yeah, so I mean, Soothsayer obviously made it to the finals every single time, only dropped one finals, and just a masterclass player. I mean, huge community tournament champion. I mean, he's won so many community tournaments. He's done well in EVERCHOSENs. Pretty much every format he does play in, he's just masterclass. And of course, his opponent, Chief, is the leader of, I believe, Spain's biggest war. I don't know if they're exclusively Warhammer, but I mean, he's an amazing player as well. Plays in community tournaments, and like I said, it just further accentuates, that every player here can upset. I mean, there's no round one matches that I think are going to be super. I mean, they could potentially be 2-0s, but I think that they have the potential to go either way on any given Sunday. Like if a player's playing well this day, they might be able to take it. It's just
yeah, and I think that's what makes it a very interesting first match. Like we were saying, is like a lot of these guys, like King of the Dead and Falcon, have very similar play styles.
Yeah, they're both aggressive.
Very aggressive, right? And so we're going to get a lot of that really fun play style, because as we move into the match again before our now previous one with Yellin Ollie and Zyphus, we're going to see a pretty intensive one. Yellin Ollie is known for being pretty much Loxodon Soothsayer's primary sparring mate. They do a lot of practicing together. They try a lot of builds against one another. And Zyphus has really made the rounds recently in tournament play, right? He's become a first place in a lot of both our league, your league, and my league, a lot of the one-off tournaments, Shetland Apaches, King's Cup tournaments. So tell us a little bit more about Zyphus and Yellin Ollie and how their play style kind of shakes out.
I mean, Zyphus he's been playing for quite some time. And, but, I mean, at the end of the day, he's like just a masterclass elf player. And thankfully in Total War Warhammer.
And as he should be, elves being the best of them all.
Yeah, they're very good at multiplayer. And it's kind of like if you've looked at other RTS games, there's certain factions or races that may have a high skill cap. And I think elves kind of fall into that category. Very flimsy in many regards. I mean, dark elves are a little bit tankier, but high elves, and I mean, they have some tanky stuff as well. But for the most part, they can be, relatively fickle and squishy and things like that. They can go down quickly. But in the hands of a good player with high micro, high RTS capabilities, high IQ in that respect, I mean, they're going to be terrifying. So Zyphus, of course, is a Wood Elf main. And if you look at Wood Elves, so for anyone who's looking at Warhammer for the first time, Wood Elves are a faction that are very lightly armored. So when they're taking attacks from different things, most weapons are going to be doing okay damage against them, but they have amazing mobility and amazing ranged firepower. So if you can really kind of bring all those tools together, they can be incredibly strong. But again, very, very squishy. But yeah, he's like, there's certain factions in this game that are very good against other ones, and that's what ends up happening.
Lend themselves to the strengths
when you
and
have
weaknesses.
As many factions as we do, there's going to be some that just aren't good against other ones. There's bad matchups, there's good matchups, But, what Zyphus is really good at is when he's playing his Wood Elves against the quote-unquote counters or factions that should beat them, like Bretonnia, with a heavy cav that can ride them down and corner them and endure the focus fire. He wins every time. In the last 5, 6, 7 games, I've seen Zyphos actually play against really top-level Bretonian players. He has crushed them.
Really?
And he's been able to crush all of his counters that are normally good. So that's really strong going into a format where when we get to the finals and the semifinals, if he does make it there, he's going to be comfortable in the pick and ban process. He's going to be like, all right, I'm going to pick Wood Elves and you play whatever you want because I am comfortable regardless of you counterpicking me. So that gives him a really, really huge leg up in regards to the format.
And that's something we talk about too when we look at a lot of these guys, right? When we take a look at their ability to master this game. They just have such an intimate knowledge of each and every unit's inner workings, how they move around the battlefield, how they get into contact with the enemy, that, like you said, they can look at a counter situation and go, okay, these are the things I have to look out for. They're picking Bretonnia. Here's how I'm going to have to counter that. These are the things that I know will help me out in countering that. And they have just a good knowledge of individual army builds, individual units, that it really makes for a really fun situation like that. And you were saying pick and ban, so the best of 5 of both the third place and the finals is a pick and ban, correct? Versus right now it's a gentleman's?
Yeah, so essentially for all the matches you guys see in day 1, so Dahv, Aerocrasic, Zyphus, Yellin Ollie, Tlexland, et cetera, these are all pre-arranged matches. So the players had time ahead of time, right? They knew they were going to be in this tournament, and we told them to, agree with your opponent on matches you're both happy with. So essentially they've been able to have gentlemen's agreements on their matchups. But, as we go into tomorrow in the finals, we're going to be having our semifinals, and then there's no downtime really between the grand
more
Poobah,
rapid fire.
the big finale there. So they essentially have to, do a pick and ban system. So what that means is, for example, if I am, let's say Dahv Plays playing against Aero, I'm going to be like, all right, game 1, I'm going to be picking the Empire, which is, a faction that he's very fond of.
Yeah.
And
Empire
then,
of Man.
And then I'll be banning Dwarves. So you basically get to pick a faction, and since you're picking first, it's a downside, right? Because your opponent can typically counterpick you.
Right.
But since there's a ban in place, you could basically ban something that the Empire is really bad against, which is the Dwarves, for example. So that will be our format for tomorrow. But for today, we're just going to be doing, the gentlemen's agreements. They've had time, but you won't be seeing the ban system in place till tomorrow, really. So
again, today we'll be moving through these kind of not prearranged matches in the sense that prearranged matches in the sense that they know exactly what races are going to be coming up against, and that's going to lead us to our first match of the day, which is going to be Dahv Plays versus Aerocrasic.
Yeah.
Now Aerocrasic, a returning member of a returning EVERCHOSEN champion.
Yes, indeed.
And against Dahv Plays, who has quite a good intimate knowledge of the competitive scene himself. He's very knee-deep in it. I mean, Empire's his favorite faction. I always like to say he likes steam tanks because I know he hates steam tanks.
Yeah, no, he never uses
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But as you've articulated to me, he loves his Pistoliers.
Yeah.
And Aerocrasic at the same time also has a really amazing command and control of the game. So give us a little breakdown, a little knowledge about both these components, or competitors.
Yeah, absolutely.
These components of these competitors.
Components.
Yeah, they all got everything.
But yeah, I mean, Dahv Plays obviously is a content creator as well. So he's going to be reviewing replays nonstop, looking at all these different matchups, and
Just
actually
watching tape.
And actually, essentially it's like watching tape. He's watching all these high-level players, and he himself is also a high-level player. So.
Yes.
But again, he is an Empire main. We're going to be seeing Empire skirmishing from him. Typically, he'll play with a lot of Pistoliers, a lot of heavy cav, and just kind of circumvent his opponent's edges and the weak sides of the flanks using the Pistoliers to kind of pick at the big targets. And yeah, but again, he's really an Empire main, and Aerocrasic, of course, is very much a seasoned tournament player. He plays in tons of community tournaments. He streams himself. I mean, he is a masterful Skaven player. Although I don't know if he's playing Skaven in this first best of 3, which is a little bit peculiar.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a little bit of a wild card for him.
But yeah, we had Aerocrasic in our EVERCHOSEN for the Vampire Coast, and he was actually, when he was first put into the EVERCHOSEN, he ended up playing the Gobbo King, who was the champion of the first EVERCHOSEN. So a lot of people
that was 1 whole year ago.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying, Aerocrasic's probably not going to have the best chances against Gobbo King. He was the winner, but little did they know. And of course, the community tournament scene is a little bit more tightly knit. So a lot of people in the general kind of viewing consensus probably didn't know him, but man, he is just such a good player. And he was able to win that game and then go all the way to the finals. He faced off against Tlexland, which you articulated earlier, we talked about, and just had a huge upset. It was the first time that, at least in EVERCHOSEN, that Tlexland had dropped the grand final. So
yeah, I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah. Looking at the bracket again, we just have so many, we have returning champions, we have finalists. It's going to be a fierce one for sure.
I think for the most part, everyone on that list, if they're not brand new to this EVERCHOSEN, they've made it to at least the 3rd place, I believe.
Yeah.
Or at least the semifinals. So we have a really fun 2 days ahead for you guys. And since what's his name, Dahv Plays is going to be playing Empire, hopefully we'll see some Gotrek and Felix play. If you don't know, you can head on over to Total War Access and get access to Gotrek and Felix now, so you can have them on your game. They're a great little addition. They're in Empire, they're in Dwarf. So
yeah, so you can use them in Empire, Dwarves, and Bretonnia.
Bretonnia, that's the other one.
Which is really cool because they kind of, in some ways, now I wouldn't call them like super top tier, like game-breaking units.
But they're really fun, especially Felix.
They're very fun. But on top of that, they do address some weaknesses. So for example, like Bretonnia might have some issues with large armored monsters. Because sometimes if you have a bunch of knights, like Bretonnia's way of dealing with big monsters is riding them down with lances and surrounding them. But if they're, have chaff or kind of like smaller things protecting them, it can be tough. But that's where Gotrek, he just gets in there, he bull rushes it with his big old axe of Grimnir, and
just Brian blesses on everything.
Yeah, he blesses them, which is great. So yeah, Gotrek's great, Felix is great. I mean, really fun additions to the game, and we might see them today.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
We got also a lot of other great things here, guys. It is Warhammer weekend, so you can get 66% off of Total War Warhammer 2. Also, you can get 75% off of Total War Warhammer 1. Getting those two in conjunction, you can play some Mortal Empires time. But I think that pretty much covers everything. As I look down at the notes that I think I should cover.
Yeah.
So let's toss things on over to the casting desk for Lore Master of Sotek and the grand face reveal of the one and only,
the Pun Master.
The Pun Master himself, the illustrious Party Elite, sitting pretty over there on the caster's desk. Take it away, guys.
Hey everybody, it's Party Elite. Thank you for that amazing introduction there, man. I'm over here today with Lore Master of Sotek. Extremely excited to get things started for the 5th EVERCHOSEN.
I know. It feels like it hasn't been 5 of them, but we're here, so.
Here we are, yeah, and we've got a great matchup to kick things off. As players have already been introduced, we've got Dahv Plays and Aerocrasic, so we've got a very serious contender against someone who has been champ in the past, so I think we're going to see some pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, and the matchup is going to be pretty great. We've got Dwarves going up against Norska, and with, Dahv is someone who I'm personally very familiar with. He's a YouTuber and is pretty tight in our community, and both of these guys do have experience in prior EVERCHOSENs, which is something that especially when you're doing gentlemen's agreements, there's a lot of having played in them before, there's a lot of interesting politics and almost scheming, trying to figure out ways to one up your opponent. And so it's pretty interesting that this is a matchup they ended up on of Norska versus Dwarves, because this can be kind of difficult for both of them in different ways. I mean, looking at Dwarves, for instance, they have a lot of ways to deal with like mammoths and stuff, but that heavy armor-piercing infantry in the Famir of the Norska can be so dangerous for them.
And not just armor-piercing, but also armor-sundering, which reduces the armor that Dwarves rely so heavily on. Their armor and their melee defense is kind of scary to get through. So it's going to be interesting to see how Norska tries to cut through that, basically. But Norska's got some options. I mean, I'd be curious to see if we see any a chariot play. I'm a big fan of
Dwarves do hate chariots.
Yep. Yes, they do. Oh, and looks like the players are starting to deploy now. So we should perhaps take a quick look.
Yeah, why don't you take us through Arrow's Norska fiends over here?
Sounds good. And this looks like a very, very interesting setup. Got a couple flyers over here. We do have Wulfric the Wanderer atop his chariot. So again, chariot play is in action. Armor piercing and anti-infantry going to be very helpful. Front line, we do have some Marauders with great weapons. I imagine we're going to get them on either flank. Yep. So we're going to have the armor piercing there as well. And the middle seems like it's just a bunch of Marauders. While at the back over here, we do have Soul Crusher coming in. So that's an interesting play. We have 2 more chariots, and both of these are Shaman Sorcerers of Death. Okay, interesting pick there. I think both of them actually have, one of them is coming in with the Spirit Leech, and another one with the Sun.
So an anti-unit specialist and an anti-character specialist.
And then up in the air, a pair of Feral Manticore. So this is a pretty interesting setup over here, and I believe that's, we do also have some Marauder Berserkers over here. Now, important thing to mention about Norska is that when they get stuck in melee, those stat lines will improve significantly as they get enraged, and in the case of Berserkers, they go Berserk, and they get physical resistance, they get melee attack buffs, so it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out. But maybe we switch the script a little bit and take a look at the Dwarves over here.
Yeah, some of which may be speed bumps in a minute, but we've definitely got so pretty interesting build coming in from Dahv over here. We've got Ungrim Iron Fist leading the Horde, which is perfect. Norska always has to rely on something big and monstrous, and he is a monster slayer. And is that Gotrek and Felix down there?
We do, in fact. Yeah, we've got Gotrek and Felix right here to open things off for us.
Oh, we are blessed this day. We've got 5 units of miners packing blasting charges, which are so good against Norska infantry coming at them, because like you said, Norska infantry get better the longer they're in combat. So if you can do a ton of damage to them with those blasting charges before they make their way to you, that's the most effective time to take them out.
Exactly, and as the action's already kicked off over here, you can see some of that early aggression is taking place.
Ooh, those copters were looking to get some of that early damage in, but those Manicores were already a perfect pick. Like, they're already making sure that the Norskins are going to be able to approach without getting completely harassed. So that Gyre Bomber is looking for a place to drop some toys.
Exactly, yeah. It just wants to get that opportunity. But of course, we do have the Mammoth over there kind of forcing it back a little bit with its ranged fire. But take a look at some of these shots coming in from back over here. These Quarrelers, you've got some great range. They're going to just poke some shots, get a little bit of damage done to these Manticores that will allow Norska to have some aerial control over, how the battle takes place. So just trying to shoot those things down ASAP, basically.
Oh, here it comes!
Oh, boy. Are we going to get some charges in over here? Let's see.
I think this is about to be a really bad Pelennor field for those dwarves.
Down they go. Oh, look at that Mammoth just rearing up, having a wonderful time over here. And the rest of Norska, again, just wanting to close the gap as quickly as possible and get some work done. Again, as soon as you engage, you start getting up that enragement and that berserking.
Looking at the build coming in from Aerocrasic, I'm really worried about the dwarves at this point because that is a lot of chariots and, of course, a Mammoth coming in on flanks, which is where they specialize. And the dwarves don't have a ton of shooting. Like, they do have some Slayers there in the back. They've got the Dragonback Slayers, and they have Gotrek and Ungrim. So they're packing a lot of really individualistic power. But without a ton of shooting, like, Soul Crusher is going to be very difficult to deal with.
Absolutely. And I mean, right now they're finally sending in Gotrek and Felix, and we're also getting these chariots moving through. So trying to move in and intercept them and stop this great little envelopment that's going on. While on the right flank over here, you can see we do have some of these Marauders pushing in as well, pushing hard on that left side, it feels like. While on the right side, we have a little bit of, loss of control over there, but I don't think that's the focus right now. I think all eyes are on this flank over here as that Mammoth continues to go charging through, just having a wonderful time over here. It's a bit dangerous, though. We do have those Dragonback Slayers.
Ooh, great boat.
Oh, my God. Beautiful boat. Good angle over there.
Norgrimly's Ironbreaker, so they tanked it pretty well. They are some of the toughest models in the game.
Absolutely, and now trying to tough it out against the Chariot. Not the greatest Chariot charge there from Wulfric. He's going to be in a touch of trouble over here, and these blasting charges, to your point earlier, being used to great effect just to, scatter the incoming enemy units and slow them down a little bit, slow down their charges, but it looks like front lines have basically fully engaged on this left side over here. Some of these great weapons coming through, and again, great weapons are armor-piercing, dwarves, high armor. So once these engagements begin, we're going to start seeing some of these, Ekron's Miners and all start melting away, and this Mammoth, man, having a...
Yeah, and we can see he's got his effect going right now, because what makes Soul Crusher unique is that he can actually, it looks like it just turned off, he has a damage resistance buff that he can activate, which basically halves all the damage he takes for a pretty good solid time. Is enraged there.
Exactly.
But it looks like he just wore out of it, and he's going in on Norgrimlings now, which he will be perfect for with his massive anti-infantry and armor-piercing to just shred through those Gromrel shields.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, over here, we have a beautiful charge from the Chariot over there, just pushing back some of these Quarrelers, trying to shut down all of that range support, because range support causes damage, sure, but it also causes morale damage, so trying to make sure all that has been shut down and kept busy. And you can see, actually, on the topic of morale, the dwarves are beginning to waver. They don't necessarily want to stick around for much longer. And up over here in the air as well, on the topic of not sticking around, I don't think these guys are going to be sticking around for much longer either. Very low on health and on morale, but it looks like that Manticore has decided to pick a fight with these miners down there instead right now.
Oh, Gyro Bomber's getting some excellent bombs in, but I'm beginning to worry for the dwarves. It might be too little too late, because a lot of their points are in that hero build. Those 3 heroes running around of Ungrim, Gotrek, and Felix, which are really, really strong, but they can't fight an entire army by themselves.
Right.
And it's starting to look like the dwarves, most of their range units have been completely shut down. And the thing with Norska is Arrow is not going to let him get that hero-on-hero combat.
Right, and his hero, I mean, Wulfric is so mobile right now. He's on his Chariot, so unless he gets pinned down, we don't have like a Runesmith or anything to slow him down too much. I believe the Dragonback Slayers are able to slow units down if they get engaged in melee, right? But it might just not be enough to keep Wulfric in place. And we can see over here we have Felix and Ungrim, and I think we've got, Gotrek here as well, just kind of bogged down, actually. Not necessarily doing the best thing they could be doing.
Oh, here comes the Slayer versus Mammoth. Is this going to be an episode of Mammoth Slayer, the new entry in Gotrek and Felix series?
Oh my God! No, it looks like that Mammoth is just
passing
shipping
through.
On by. Yeah, doesn't want to stick around for too long. And that's the great thing about something with so much mass. It's able to get work done and leave. And look at that. Is that we've got a Spirit Leech dropping on just some of these terrified miners over here, finishing them off. Spirit Leech typically you want to use on a character, but this is a good way to kind of cap off the unit.
And it looks like what Arrow did that was super clever with this little hero squad is he's been focusing Felix. And one of the reasons you want to do that is, A, Felix can actually break. Gotrek and Ungrim are unbreakable, so they'll fight till they die. And Felix can heal, but it looks like Dahv is just handed off the match there as he just gets utterly beaten down.
Absolutely. I mean, Felix there, we saw, I think the last thing we saw happen was Felix dropped dead, and I think that's where it was brought to an end. It was a tense battle, but you know what? It was I hate to say it like this, but it was a was a short battle. But that was really well done, I would say, by Aerocrasic. He did what he needed to do to get in there very aggressively with those chariots. He tried to shut down range from the dwarves, and they didn't have as much range as I would have expected.
Well, you know what? Dahv was really clever in that he brought such a powerful flying force, but he wasn't expecting the double feral manticore.
No.
Because you don't see that very often.
Yep.
Like, maybe you'll see like a beast wizard summon manticores, but manticores are a pretty high risk play. If Dahv had thunderers, they would have mowed them down.
Absolutely.
But Dahv was expecting air superiority. Look, he got 1, 2, 3 kills, and that's what, 3,000, 4,000 gold worth of units.
So
that
much.
Didn't get to do anything.
Exactly, and I wonder if Aerocrasic almost predicted that. Saw like, you know what, this would be an unusual option right now, and tried something a little unusual there. And I think that's what makes something like this so spectacular, is when we get a player trying to. They both tried to outpredict each other, basically.
Yep.
They both tried to do something like, oh, he'd never think of this, or he'd never think of this, and then both of them ended up countering their counter thoughts.
Well, Aero was able to take on Sooth, and there are a lot of legends out there that Sooth can see the future, which is why he's so dangerous. He's a Slon. It's a fact. But Aerocrasic somehow managed to get a one-up on him back in the day, so who knows? Maybe he's got Skaven sneaking into people's PCs and stealing their builds, man.
Stealing their builds, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm really excited to see how this next matchup goes. I'm a firm believer in the concept of momentum when it comes to like tournament play, and you really have to wonder what's going through either player's heads right now. Like, again, we've got a serious contender against a former champ who obviously wants to get get it again, get that too, right? So what do you think is kind of going through their heads as we head into our next matchup, which is Aerocrasic playing as the High Elves and Dahv playing as the as Bretonnia?
Well, I think traditionally in this matchup, the Elves are at a slight disadvantage. Bretonnia is very, very good at dealing with really elite, low-number factions, which pretty much all Elves are.
Right.
But for Dahv, when you play in an Everchosen, losing the first match does put a ton of stress on you as a player, because suddenly you're up against a wall and your opponent, they don't necessarily need to, like, be crushing you. They just need to try and look for that moment where you're likely to falter a little bit and go for that killing jab. So Dahv has to be on his absolute A game to make sure that he doesn't accidentally get distracted or let himself get so stressed that he's not necessarily as aware of everything as he could be.
Yeah, because everything's on one side, everything's on the line. On the other side, there is a bit of give. There is some room for chancing some things. So I'll be curious to see how it kind of builds off. But looks like our players are ready and rearing to go. So we're going to dive on in, and we're actually going to be fighting at the Sword of Torgal.
Heading into Bretonnia, man. They're defending.
Yeah, they are defending.
They're on the home turf.
Very fitting, actually, that they are defending. And I really find this map to be one of those extremely interesting ones because of the terrain. So I'm curious to see how mobility gets affected, because
that critical dip in the center is like, it doesn't seem like it would make such a massive difference, but it does.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It absolutely does, and it changes sight lines and everything. Now, to be fair, on either side we're going to get archers, so it's not really about straight shooting, but every once in a while sightlines can get affected, and it can cause some troubles. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. I'm very curious to see if we're going to see cav heavy play from Bretonnia.
I mean, that's definitely where their crux lies, but if you can trick your opponent as a Bretonnian player into like heavily investing in anti-large, and then you show up with like a mass peasant build with only a few accenting knight units, you can put the hurt on.
Absolutely, because High Elves do have, I mean, their base front line unit is spears.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of threat there from the High Elves to prevent a cavalry heavy push from Bretonnia, and yet cavalry heavy almost feels natural for Bretonnia, right? So I'm very curious to see the counterplay. And again, we saw some cheekiness, some pretty clever moves in the in terms of composition last time. So let's take a look at composition this time.
Yeah, so let's start with Bretonnia here. Dahv he's got a pretty interesting army. It's actually a fairly good mix of cav to peasant ratio. So we've got the Fey Enchantress leading the charge here. She's got all of her abilities, so she's going to be doing damage to local enemies in combat with Mist of the Lady. She has her buff, and then she has Earthblood and Dwellers Below.
Oh.
Very powerful spell, very difficult to trick your opponent into standing in it. Then it looks like we've got, is that Gotrek and Felix again?
It looks like we got Gotrek and Felix again. Yes, absolutely.
Dahv has got a sexy theme going. I love it. Next time we got the Grail Relic, which of course is providing leadership and immune to psychology, just in case there's a dragon, which it looks like there may be. And then we've got a couple of knight units, and is that a Blessed Trebuchet or a regular one?
We are looking at a Blessed Field Trebuchet.
Which is really great on this map if you can get those opponents in that dip, because sure, it might hit your own guys, but the Blessed Trebuchet does not affect friendly units.
You're absolutely right, yeah. And we do have some archers back here as well.
Gotta have your peasant archers. Yeah. Oh, pox arrows.
Good call. They're slow the enemy down on their approach. And yeah, some peasant mob up front just to maybe take some of the initial shots.
Nice, cheap front line. So what are we doing with the High Elves over here?
On the High Elves over here, we do have Alariel the Radiant on her horse.
Ooh,
up
Life
front.
Wizard Showdown.
See, and this is what I mean, a pair of nobles atop their chariots. This is interesting because they are now anti-infantry and armor piercing. So that's interesting. Up in the air, we do have a Star Dragon looking to get some good breaths in, I imagine. A front line of, as expected, some spearmen. We do have the Silver Helms pushing off to the side.
Okay, so the medium tier cavalry for the High Elves.
Don't want to overcommit. And back here, Lothar and Seaguard. These guys are able to defend themselves should cavalry come charging into them. So they're not too worried about, I mean, they are scared about it, but they're not too worried about
nice
cavalry charges.
hit.
That is a great opening hit, and that's a good call as well. Start to whittle away at the range support that the High Elves will bring in. And
man, so the Bretonnians have a lot more, Dahv has a lot more wiggle room with how he uses his units due to the sheer volume that he has. But obviously the big thing that he has to worry about is the Hero, Goon Squad, and the Star Dragon.
Right.
Like, Alariel, of course, is probably the best healing character in the game, the Fey Enchantress being a close second, because they're both support-heavy characters. See, those peasants got hit, but they're fine. They sprinkled some blessed water on there.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, they're
okay, maybe they're not fine anymore.
Not fine anymore. In come those charges. And seemingly little response over here. We do have some of those Knights of the Lionheart and all pushing in, scaring the cavalry back. But look at this focus fire.
Oh, that dragon's about to take a little bit of nasty damage.
We want to try and take that dragon down ASAP because, again, to your point earlier, that's something to be very aware of. A good breath on a clump of infantry, oof, that could wipe out a huge chunk of Bretonnia's army immediately. Counterfire coming through, though, and trying to get rid of that Grail Relic.
Yeah, and it'll take a little bit just because arrows kind of have a hard time focusing on such a small unit model. But we see the Bretonnian infantry is... It looks like Dahv's trying to get his archers a little bit back. Ooh, Dragon Breath. Oh, really mean Dragon Breath coming in.
Indeed.
If that thing lands, man, he's going to have to try and find a way to get Gotrek and Felix on that thing, because that's going to be the best way to take it down. I mean, the archers can ping it a lot, but it looks like we have our first Earthblood coming in from the High Elf side. We're going to be seeing a lot of Earthbloods.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the very nicely done there. The dragon was in range to actually get help from that Earthblood as well. Earthblood heals units, but it's almost best used with low entity count units, I would say. Back over here, these Lothar and Seaguard just
getting putting in work.
Getting a lot of work done. In fact, the Lothar and Seaguard, able to fire away, get some damage done, and again, range fire does health and morale damage. So just trying to cause that morale damage and scare off maybe some of these Knights of the Lionheart over here. In comes the dragon as well.
Looking for that Grail Relic, I bet, because as long as it's alive, the peasant infantry will not break from terror. They will fight until they're like really beaten down.
Yeah, exactly, until they've been overtaxed by the fighting. But over here, I mean, front lines have started to engage properly as well. We've got some good, spear versus spearman at arms action going on, I suppose. And these chariots having a bit of a field day. Again, anti-infantry because of the chariot itself, and their nobles, if they've got a decent bit of health, they're going to have a wonderful time just chasing after some of these units, getting those side charges in again. Look at that.
Chariots, so, I mean, they just run over models, but they can get stuck if they go through too thick of a press. But if you hit people on the sides, they will slice through it like butter.
Oh, absolutely, and that's exactly what we saw. And it looks like we're seeing some decent bit of wavering happening on that side while the dragon dives in again over here. And yet another Earthblood, just keeping this bad boy alive. That Trebuchet, though, still getting work in, but you know what? A little bit of a, I would say a little bit of a mistake here, staying focused on that unit of Lothar and Seaguard that is too far away to do anything.
It's likely he's focused. He looks like he's really trying to micro those cav, but he's kind of finding a hard home to put them in. And that Grail Relic just broke back there. That dragon is parked right on top of it.
Oh, I think it's gone down, and
ooh, man. Those peasants cannot hold up that dead Bretonnian any longer. That's such a bizarre unit.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I love it.
It's literally like a morbid puppet show.
Absolutely love it. And it looks like we're going to have another breath over here, and this seems like the perfect angle for it.
Oh, he got staggered by the arrows.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if you have a breath attack or a spell and it gets interrupted by a model taking a lot of damage, sometimes they'll kind of shake and stagger, and it can stop what they're doing. It looks like we've got Gotrek and Felix going in on that Dragon Boy.
The Dragon actually took a risk there, dove in there, wants to go toe-to-toe with Gotrek. I don't know if that's a good idea.
The last Dragon that did that did not go well for him.
Oh, but look at that Star of Avalorn using that to heal up.
Just in time for the Nobles running in.
The Nobles came in. In comes an Earthblood as well, so good call. Star of Avalorn, max cap.
Gotrek is outpacing that Star of Avalorn.
This Dragon might not be having a very good time. Very low on health, very low on morale, trying to get out of there, and just barely able to. But do we have any range support? Yes, we do have these Pox arrows firing away, trying to slow that Dragon's getaway down, but I don't think...
I mean, that Trebuchet is still firing. He's used about 60% of his ammo, and the thing with siege weapons, the longer they're alive, they're basically getting guaranteed passive value.
Right.
But we do see the Nobles are back there to deal with.
Yeah, I think they finally realized, like, Aero finally realized, like, you know what, this needs to be shut down. Let's stop this and take a look at this. The cavalry moving in over here, chasing after Bretonnian cavalry, just trying to shut these questing knights down. Say that your quest is at an end over here. A little bit of a countercharge coming in, maybe trying to go toe to toe. I mean, morale damage over here is pretty pretty hefty.
You know, the questing knights will be a lot better in a prolonged engagement. They're not really charge cav; they're prolonged engagement cav. So for them, if they can get the Silverhelms tied up in like a fight to the death, that's fine.
Right, unless of course there's Earthblood support coming through and all, but it does look like you're right. Those Silver Helms not really wanting to stick around. Oh, just barely hanging in there. In comes a little bit of
Dwellers, come on! Arrow's getting out of there.
Oh, good response time there.
Oh, those spearmen though. Oh boy,
they're not having a pleasant time. But I guess trying to determine the value of these
look
units.
at that, everyone just scattered.
Yep, good play there, great micro, and that's the kind of intense stuff that I love seeing. Seeing that cast going down, knowing exactly what it must be, and pulling away into safety. This Dragon, meanwhile,
looks
diving
like we got Gotrek and Felix fighting those Nobles and Alariel.
Ooh, seems to be it's a very dense crowd over here. A bit of a mosh pit going on. These Nobles, I think, finally might be tied down over here, getting Fa's protection to try and keep them alive as they are surrounded and getting beat down over here. They need to find a way to escape.
Looks like we got Gotrek back on the Dragon. The Lothern Sea Guards, though, have rallied in the back, providing support into that melee fight. And I guess it looks like the Trebuchets are inundated with infantry. Dahv needs to get those spearmen out of there, get those things back online to deal with the Lothern Sea Guard. I think if he can honestly get the Lothern Sea Guard back under artillery fire, I think he could probably pull this out.
Still turn this around. Yeah, it's still anyone's game. I mean, it's not over till it's over, and Bretonia is doing a good job of holding there. Dahv has done a very good job, and if this Dragon goes down, it will make a very big difference. Just desperately casting those Earthbloods to keep it alive, and off in the distance you can actually see, sure, they're just, peasant mobs and some spearmen at arms, but they are sitting there looking pretty, as I like to say, doing absolutely nothing. They are crucial. Even if they don't get damage done physically, they can do some morale damage, which is huge.
Yeah, and it looks like Aerocrasic's actually focusing his attention on that Trebuchet that he's managed to kind of surround with those Lothern Sea Guard, trying to get rid of everything that can allow Dahv to actively hunt the Dragon, deal with the range support. Ranged units they're explicitly a unit that as long as they have ammo, they have value. But if you allow them to shoot all their ammo, they're basically like they've done their job.
Right. I mean, they do have uses after ammo is done, but they are, they've done their job, to your point.
Oh, that Dragon.
It is very close to dying here. Need to play it a bit more carefully there, but the Lothern Sea Guard back over here now. Free to fire away, no Trebuchet to counterfire, no, I don't think we have any Peasant Bowmen left either to counterfire, so they're just freely firing away because these Peasant Bowmen here are crowded up. In comes a breath. You know what? Not the...
Gotrek it kind of just bounced off of him.
Yeah, it didn't really care much for that breath attack. And
I think call that Dragon breath.
I mean, he is notoriously bad at his job as he tries to die gloriously, just not doing a good job of it, I guess. And over here, the Dragon, just trying to pull back and play it safe and finish off some of these units, cap them off, get the routes going, maybe hoping for a mass route.
So I think at this point, it looks like Dahv is trying to get the Nobles contained. Like, he's got the Fey Enchantress chasing after them. She is pretty much fast enough to keep up with them, and she can do damage if they ignore her. She can get hitting them in the back with spells. But it looks like the Blessed Trebuchet crew actually rallied a bit south of here. There they are. And if Dahv can get them back online, I mean, they could be dangerous. That being said, it looks like the High Elves are kind of getting around where the actual artillery pieces are.
Right.
So even if they did get back to them, they'd probably be within minimum range.
Well, I'd be shocked if they were able to get into that area right now because it's basically High Elf territory now. I don't think those trebuchets are getting back online, but it is unfortunate. 50% ammo left in that with that crew. But the nobles here need to be a bit more careful. They are at about 50% health each, and Gotrek is there, giving chase. You want to be careful. Don't want to take too many risks.
Light versus life in the back there. We got a Lariel facing off against the Enchantress, and oh man, there comes that Star of Avalorn.
Beautiful Star of Avalorn, wonderfully done. Now the Star of Avalorn does have a cap of how many units it can heal, and we're well within that cap. That dragon needs to stay within its radius, though. Don't want to keep it out of there for too long, because you see that's what happens. It's not going to get the healing help, and.
You know, I almost worried that it looks like Dahv may be having a little bit of trouble focusing. He's kind of like ping-ponging to whatever threat presents itself at a time, instead of just like going up against the Spearmen, making sure to wear them down, wipe them out. Because Gotrek, Felix, and the Enchantress are a nasty triple team in that Felix provides passive healing. They can, of course, pass ward saves to each other with Gotrek and Felix. You have that heavy anti-large on Gotrek. And then the Enchantress does damage over time as long as she's fighting.
Right, she has to be fighting. And I think you're very much right. There's so many threats. They're so all very active. He's dancing back and forth, but he needs to take control of the match and say, no, this is where we fight, this is where we hopefully not die, but that's what he needs to do, and draw the fight out if possible. But the High Elves, I think right now they have the numerical superiority, so it's very hard to do that.
Yeah, but it looks like it's pretty much down to this. Everyone's kind of involved in this little blob death fight, and that dragon is just cycle charging in and out, doing a really good... Because whenever that dragon charges in, if he connects, he does just colossal amounts of damage. And the only thing that can really easily kill him will be the actual Gotrek and Felix models, but they are surrounded by spearmen, so it's going to be really hard for them to connect with him.
Absolutely, it's not looking very good for Bertoni over here, and that dragon is holding on to what little health it has left. In comes GG.
Oh, nice save there.
Wow, that was...
You know, Bertoni started off so strong in that match, but I really feel what it came down to is that Gotrek and Felix were winning, and the Enchantress as a goon squad were winning wherever they were, but the noble Arrow kept holding that little carrot stick of, oh, here's my nobles, oh, here's my dragon, and it kept distracting the Bertonians from just focusing on whatever unit they were fighting.
You're absolutely right, and I mean the numbers tell a whole story. Arrow's nobles have 170 plus kills each. The dragon has 170 plus kills as well, so absolutely tempting, baiting out the high value targets, dragging them from left to right, and sometimes concentrating them in one area and forcing Dahv to focus on multiple areas, which you can't do too easily, and just whittling everything down. I mean, taking that Grail Relique down very early.
And this as we're getting ready for the next match, this was a crucial lesson. When you're fighting a life wizard, one of the most important things is to not try and not to blitz single entities necessarily, because when you have heavy life healers, they can easily heal that model. But if you're taking out units, when a model dies, you can't resurrect them with life magic.
Exactly.
So if he had used all of those peasant archers and what the Gotrek and Felix and the Enchantress do, instead of focusing the characters and the dragon, focus all of the cav and the infantry, that probably would have been a much more efficient use of his time.
A better way to go about it. I think you're absolutely right.
But it's really difficult, especially when that dragon was down to a sliver of health.
Yeah.
That is a hard temptation to resist.
Oh god, absolutely, because that's such a high value target, and it was used to perfection almost.
Yep.
Even at low health, I cannot believe it survived. I thought
Arrow showing that micro skill of his. He was able to. He got that dragon so low, and he's like, I'm just going to use this as bait.
Right, and did so wonderfully. So that was a great match. Again, I think
Arrow will be moving on to the
exactly.
semis, and great show by Dahv. He brought Gotrek and Felix both times, and they were used to very good effectiveness. He really showed that they can be kind of powerhouses on the field.
Absolutely, and both matches put up a good fight. Stuck in there, really stuck in there right to the end, using every tool at his disposal as best as possible, but getting picked apart. I think in both games, getting picked apart by Arrow's micro, especially with the
and the first game was almost a counter pick. Arrow kind of managed to mind game him and come out with a stronger list, and then the second game, you're fighting on the back foot, and that's we were talking about the psychology of that.
That's all the momentum.
But why don't you go ahead and let's what are we going into?
Exactly. So with that matchup now concluded, we are actually taking a look at Zyphus versus Yellin Ollie. And the first game we have between these two powerhouses.
Faces.
Exactly.
Fresh
faces. Fresh meat. These are some extremely impressive players. Now again, Turin and Italian Spartacus sort of went over their details a little bit, so I'm super excited to see. There's some games planned this matchup that I'm really pumped for. And the first one we have is Empire versus Lizardmen.
Oh man, so we kind of got the theme of the most recent DLC coming out swinging here.
I wonder if we'll see some of the content from that recent DLC on show. I mean,
Oh, I'd be amazed if we didn't see
Yeah.
some of those units. And we're even fighting on the Ogum Shard, which is a DLC map from the most recent DLC.
Right. It's a pretty fitting,
Yeah,
fitting
did
matchup
they
in that.
plan this?
I don't know. But I mean, this is going to be a pretty fun game. I love, and I'm sure I'm going to assume you do as well. I love seeing good lizardmen play in action.
Oh yeah.
And I think we're going to see that. We're going to see the men of the Empire, try and hold as massive beasts.
You mean invade our rightful territory? Is that what you're trying to say?
Listen, we're not going to start this. We're not going to start this.
Poor lizardmen. Poor lizardmen. Everyone just wants their gold.
Yeah, I mean, hey, when you have so much, share a little. But no, this should be an interesting battle. The map is also a pretty interesting one.
Oh, thinking about this map, there's a lot of water on this map, and lizardmen really like that water. So for anyone not aware, lizardmen have what are called aquatics.
Yeah.
And it basically it vastly increases their melee attack and I think melee defense when they're fighting in it for Kroxigors and Skinks. And if your enemy has infantry units, theirs goes down.
Right.
So it like doubles that gap.
Significantly down too. Yeah.
So Zyphus, who I believe is bringing Empire this match, is going to have to be so careful. Those are basically ponds of lava if there are skinks in them.
Right. Right.
So he's going to have to, and there's a lot of it, so he's going to have to pick his fighting areas pretty carefully.
Very carefully, yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised to see some impressive micro on that front because, I mean, Zyphus is very good with his micro play, very good at avoiding engagements that he doesn't want to be involved in. So very curious to see how that comes to life here.
Yeah, he is a very good elf player. I mean, I've seen his wood elf games, and they're mind-boggling. So, I mean, if anyone's got really good micro for this, it'll be Zyphus.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of, I mean, is this, as lore master, tell me this, is this a lore-fitting fight?
It is. Just the Empire like to invade the lizardmen a lot because they just see them as bestial creatures. They don't really understand what the lizardmen are. And when the lizardmen were actually originally released by Games Workshop, their first matchup in a box set, it technically was lizardmen versus Bretonia, but they have a lot of ugly rivalries back then with the Empire. All their original concept art, which granted they looked a lot not great back then, but the Lizardmen and the Empire were heavy rivals back in the day.
Right.
But why don't you run us through the Empire, and I'll take my boys.
Sure thing. Of course, that just makes sense. So Carl Franz is up in the air,
man,
in charge. So he's going to have a wonderful time over here. We've got some Outriders up front, it looks like, and they are going to do a good job of, I guess, pinging and pulling back, do a fair bit of skirmishing with those Outriders, which will be fun to see. Back over here, we do have some Demigryph Knights with halberds, anti-large, an absolute must against the dinosaurs. Some more Demigryph Knights with halberds on that right flank as well. And it seems like we have some Hellblaster volley guns.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. That is an interesting pick for sure.
I thought I'd see the Black Lions, but it's the non-wagon version.
Exactly. And up in the air back here as well, we see the Amethyst Wizard with Spirit Leech, so wanting to focus down on characters perhaps with that Spirit Leech. The front line consists of course, Spearmen over here, trying to get that anti-large up front. We have a Jade Wizard as well, wanting to keep units alive.
Opposing lore wizards, I bet they argue.
Yeah, how do they get along? That's why they keep the distance up and down. We have some Flagellants over here as well, and over here Unbreakable, so they won't scare off when the dinos come a-charging. And then we've got some Sigmar Suns, also Unbreakable. Clever options there. A little bit of shifting around going on, but as they get deployed, how about we flip on over and you tell us what's going on with the Lizardmen here.
Man, it looks like the Lizardmen are ready to take to the skies. We've got, looks like, 3 units of Pterodons, one of which is the Regiment of Renown, the Pahawk Sentinels, who of course have very, very nasty drop rocks. Then we've got some Chameleon Skinks out there, great for harassment, and the Lizardmen know this map has water, so there are the cohort of Sotek, no relation, 2 units of Skink cohorts, 2 Saurus, who look like they're angling to take those hills, because Saurus don't get that aquatic buff.
Right.
Then we've got a Solar Engine, the Regiment of Renowned Salamanders, the Umbral Tide, who are very, very stealthy. And then, is that Krokgar leading the charge?
It seems to be Krokgar.
I haven't seen Krokgar in so long.
I know. This is a nice match we're getting. Going to get Krokgar charging on into...
Oh, and then a Skink Chief and a Priest in the skies. Man, that Death Wizard's got a lot of company.
I know. Staying in the air is going to be a rough decision to make. I don't think it's going to be a good day for that Wizard, but it looks like we're going to get some movement from both sides right away. Of course, spotting the Hellblaster volley gun means that the Lizardmen will want to be aggressive over here. Just until they get within range before they can start counterfiring.
It does have like kind of a medium range, or it's much shorter range than most artillery, so there is a lot more leeway with that. but when it does get in range, it shoots very fast.
Right, absolutely. And you can see the skirmishing I was talking about earlier coming into play nice and early. A good bit of back and forth. Those chameleon skinks able to fire away and do a fair bit of damage.
Those are outriders, yeah.
Yes.
So kind of the nasty thing for the outriders is that they have to hold still and they can only shoot straight. So they don't really have the luxury of being able to like run around the skink priests,
right?
Or the chameleon skinks. And man, the chameleon skinks are very good at trading with low armor targets like that death wizard or the outriders.
Yeah, absolutely. Not having any trouble at all scaring that wizard back a little bit. And I'm a little worried right now for the Empire's choices because you can see the damage that's already been done. It's been very one-sided. And,
I think that piece of machinery just got stomped.
Well, thankfully it was just a piece of machinery. Great reflexes there in sort of abandoning the machinery and pulling back into safety. But we've got frontline engagements almost starting off over here.
Oh, that dropped rocks.
Oh.
Yeah, that man. So most people don't use Urian's Thunderbolt, which is what that priest just used. It's a spell that literally just drops a lightning bolt. It's very easy to dodge, but not for artillery pieces, and it can one-shot artillery pieces.
Right.
So the Lizardman player looks like he's just going to be casually nuking that thing down one piece at a time.
Right.
That way he controls the pace of the battle.
Exactly. That's a great way to do it, and you're absolutely right. But it looks like we're getting some response over here, trying to get that Spirit Leech on some of these flyers and just get them off the field because they must be getting extremely frustrating. They are swarming the skies, but the rest of the Lizardmen...
Oh, there's a break.
Oh boy, this is. I mean, I don't know how things are going to play out just yet. It's really hard to tell this early on because most of the Lizardman army is still back there, just relaxing as this initial engagement is happening. Oh,
another lightning.
Here we go again.
Is he gonna dodge it? Oh, yep, he manages to get out of there in time.
Well done, well done. This time, I think taking the equipment with, so still has some of that equipment available. And here we do have, another wavering going down. I don't know if we'll see a full route out of it. Still firing
probably.
away.
They're getting pretty creamed.
Yeah, they're getting shot at.
Yeah,
over here.
Pterodons are very fast, but unfortunately they have super low armor. So if something can focus them, they get absolutely torn apart.
Right, and look at that. It does, in fact, turn into a rout. So it's going to try and make its way off the field. It'll probably recover and come back, and it has a fair bit of ammunition left, so it will return to the fight. While over here, we've kind of been ignoring our boy Carl Franz back here, but it looks like Carl was chasing after these Pterodon riders, maybe, and trying to just get a little bit of work done over there.
Looks like he's going to be escorting them from the battlefield.
Exactly. Like, you can chase a unit off the battlefield, so I think that's what the plan is over there. But he has to be very wary of the company that he might very quickly attract back over here.
Oh, those Pawhawk Sentinels are just... they're running through the wrong neighborhood.
Yeah, they might just melt away at this point, very low on health. They have managed to use up a lot of their ammunition, so at least there's that. But they can be really helpful in getting some charges in after they're out of ammunition.
Yeah,
so
I almost wonder, because they've used most of their ammunition and they've dropped their rocks, I wonder if Halinale is purposefully baiting out the ammunition of the Outriders.
Oh, that
because Outriders don't have a lot of ammunition, and the Pawhawk Sentinels actually have fairly high missile resistance. Uh-oh.
Ooh, this is looking like a hit. Maybe just gonna get out of there. Oh, knocked a few of them over, but dodged the equipment at least. And over here now, we're getting that Skink Priest of Heavens being focused down from the Outriders as well as but it did manage to get.
Wind blast.
That was a pretty good wind blast. Yeah, the Sigmar Sons. Now, the thing about unbreakable troops is that they will never give up on the fight. They will fight to the finish. So whittling them down sooner rather than later is a good call.
Franz is in a bad spot.
Yes,
I think the Lizardman may have lured him into a trap.
Very, very nicely done here by Halinala, putting him into a trap. But again, I think Zyphus will be wise enough to pull back into safety now.
Yeah, look, but I mean, he's going to take. I mean, there is an Earthblood wizard, but Earthblood, it's a heal, but it's not a crazy heal.
Right.
And so Franz is taking a lot of damage right now because he's just being pursued by javelins, and every time one of those hits him, he gets slower.
Yeah, and you can see the engagement over there has far off in the distance over there has basically been abandoned by the Lizardmen because they want to focus down.
Oh, that Hand of the Gods just cut Franz down.
Boy, this is not a good situation for Carl Franz.
Cube of Darkness. So that's actually an item the Skink Priest can take, and if you toss it on character, it lowers that player's Winds of Magic. Which a lot of people don't take it, but it's actually very, very good for how cheap it is.
Yeah, and that'll be pretty hurtful considering the number of magicians, I suppose.
Oh, that Death Wizard! Those salamanders are going to eat him for breakfast. He's about to get charbroiled.
Yeah, he's about to get broiled. Absolutely. Look at that. That morale is dropping, and this is, I mean, almost, I think, sacrificing maybe that wizard
to get him
there.
away from Franz, I think.
Yeah, but being very focused on Franz as well, trying to keep him slow, trying to keep him, low on morale, very low on health. And to your point, that Earthblood can heal, but it can only do so much.
What an fascinating match. This is the longest skirmish game I think I've seen of Warhammer in a long time.
Absolutely, and I wasn't expecting too much skirmishing out of either of these factions, so it's really cool to see this kind of a clever approach over here, trying to outplay each other in this prolonged initial, act, so to speak, of the battle. And
here come the lizards.
Indeed, they're finally getting aggressive, it seems.
They got that Death Wizard out of the way. Franz is down to about 25% health. A lot of ammunition has been spent. The Lizardmen they're in a fairly favorable position. Granted, what's left, I mean, those Demigryphs are really, they are ready to go.
Right, and they're terrifying. But, I mean, apart from some of these flyers, we do have some dinos, but largely,
Not a lot of anti-large. I mean, the only anti-large is Krokgar.
Exactly, but Krokgar is a terrifying anti-large. Exactly, he is Krokgar after all. But I mean, basically, Karl Franz, I would almost say, has been denied the option to land, because if Krokgar gets on Karl Franz, I mean, how do you think that matchup would play out with how little health Karl Franz has right now?
Oh, that Skink Chief is not having a good time right now.
Getting some revenge over here, focusing down that Skink Chief. That Skink Chief is going to try.
So I'm just going to head right out.
Yeah, it's like, it's nice knowing you. I am out right now, please and thank you. The Hellblasters are finally getting some work done, focusing down on
comes that demi-charge right into those source warriors. Of course, aren't spears, so they're just going to eat it.
Oh, yeah, good bit of hurt there.
Oh, but Krokgar, he just got blinded by a friendly fire.
Yeah, a bit of friendly fire over there. Not going to appreciate that. Someone's getting punished afterwards. But you know what? Maybe that was the great plan. Who knows? Because he did manage to scare off those Demigryph Knights with halberds. It looks like we are getting a response here from the Spearmen. And
Hand of the Gods.
That was a good Hand of the Gods.
It kind of 50%ed on connection, but I don't think Karl Franz appreciated it.
No, exactly. And he again, Karl Franz has to be very careful, not really able, again, to land and provide support. We have frontline engagements now kicking off these Saurus warriors.
See, those flagellants are caught they're in the water, and the Saurus aren't.
Right.
So, and we can actually see the Zyphus is adjusting to take that into account.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because otherwise, those Saurus are just, granted, they're going to rip apart flagellants anyway. But it looks like this is going to be our main full engagement. We got both Demigryphs in, but the Umbral Tide have very heavy anti-large damage on those fireballs they spit.
Right.
So if they can just chill back there and do lots of damage, though they're focusing the Life Wizard right now, which being an infantry model, he'll be okay.
He'll be all right, yeah. But
Franz! Oh.
Franz, no, don't do this. Not like this. Not like this. Oh, down he goes. He wants to try and shut down that range support because, again, the anti-large is only from range, not in melee. So you can see the instant response there, pulling back into safety there.
Yeah, but here, he's got javelins and blow darts coming in. And you can see Krokgar's coming right for him.
Yeah, exactly. He senses blood. Great instinct over there, chasing. Oh my God, Karl is taking so much damage. They're so low on health and morale.
The Emperor is not having a good day.
Not having a good day.
72 health left. One more blow dart.
Just dodged that, and he's routing now, so there's no control over what he does.
I think he's done, man.
Absolutely. He's going to get bogged down by some of those flyers, I think, and maybe shot to pieces or clawed to pieces. He's going to try and get away, but even if he comes back, what can he do?
Boom! Taken out by the dart.
Down he goes, and you must feel very happy about that, but I am sure the Empire does not.
It's a dark day for mankind.
It is a dark day for mankind, but Lizardkind is looking pretty good right now. We do have these guys.
Oh, those Demigryphs are going to get... This is a perfect position for the Lizardmen. They can't get to the Salamanders, and the Salamanders have free reign. And the Unbreakable Skinks are holding off... Oh, nice Wind Blast. The Flagellants have no armor, so that Wind Blast is going to do tons of damage.
Yeah, drop them to about 50% with that one blast, and again,
man, the Lizardmen, I don't think the Empire's got anything left. Like, they've got those Demigryphs, but the Salamanders are so safe, and the Bastillodon is just casually tracking them, firing off lasers.
Exactly. Played a very good job of keeping those high-value, high-range units, off in the distance and focusing down on the imminent threats.
And there goes the Life Wizard. So magic is offline for the Empire, and there's still a Skink Priest who can throw easy Wind Blasts. There's still a Krokgar at 50% health. There's still Chameleon Skinks. There's still Salamanders. Oh, look at that. They just lost 25% of their health to a single combined volley.
Beautiful job threading the needle there, but to what end? They got burnt to a crisp, and now they're turning around and
that'll be the match.
Up on the fight. Yeah.
God, what a brutal game.
That was absolutely brutal, but that level of skirmishing is just amazing. I love seeing the amount of thought and patience.
They both played that. Look at that one kill on a Hellblaster volley gun.
Oh my, beautiful. Those initial casts were a really good call. They're just trying to tease, rather harass, I should say, the volley gun. But it was really a prolonged first act. I feel like that was half the battle was skirmishing.
Oh, at least?
Yeah.
Well, and it was so well played by Yellin Ollie in that he lured Karl Franz into a deadly trap.
Yes.
Like, he's like, oh, you caught my pterodons. Oh, you're following them off? And all of a sudden, Karl Franz is like, wait, there are 3 pterodon units on me,
oops.
and a skink chief, and a skink priest, and those salamanders were stealthed.
Yes.
So he didn't even know they were there until all of a sudden he's surrounded by flyers and a solar engine.
Exactly.
He literally went into like an anti-aircraft vessel.
Right. Well, absolutely.
Over there.
Well, it's all. This is again. It's those mind games, right? Like I imagine Zyphus pushed Karl Franz through, saw some early successes, maybe got a little overconfident, just a little overconfident, pushed a little too far, and then couldn't make his way back safely. Got surrounded by flyers, got pinged by poison.
And he ate a hand of the gods too.
Exactly, and that was a good hand of the gods. Wonderful, wonderful match.
And
over
those
there.
demigryphs, they were great, but the Empire, they had no choice but to try and wait until they could utilize, those spirit leeches and the Hellblaster and the Outriders, but they ended up getting no value out of them.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, he hurt some pterodons, but pterodons are cheap.
Exactly, yeah, and by that point, they'd basically already done their job. Yeah, so we're going to get moving on to the next match between these two, and this is going to be extremely intense, I think. We've got Zyphus going in as the Wood Elves.
His best faction.
His best faction against Yellin Ollie playing as the Greenskins.
Yeah, and Yellin Ollie's up 1. You can definitely tell he's Sooth's sparring partner.
Right, absolutely. Yeah,
It shows.
There's a great deal of experience showing on both ends over here, and I'm very curious to see. Like, we saw a fair bit of micromanagement there, and it's going to intensify significantly with stuff like Wood Elves.
Yeah, though this map, so we're on MP Alpine Ridge for this, which is a notorious map in the multiplayer community because the very outer edges are woods where you can kind of hide some things, but then there's this big honkin' hill in the middle of the map.
Yeah, well, literally, it's like a ridge. And I really like this map, actually. I really like this map because it opens up some multiple avenues. Are you going to hide in the trees and come in from the side? Are you going to hide something in the trees to see what's on the other side of the ridge? Because what the ridge does is not only does it, create this like height situation, but it blocks vision early on from your deployment zone, so you don't know what's on the other side.
It's tricky to take like Wood Elves tend to rely on like archers, long range, and against Wood Elves, Greenskins almost always bring Doomdiver catapults. Right. Which, granted, the Doomdiver catapults aren't necessarily daunted by that hill because they have such range and they fire in an arc. Right. So getting over the hill is not a big deal once you're on the hill. But like it's a weird game of, do I rush the hill and try to claim the high ground? Exactly. Because when you charge downhill, you get a bonus. Or do I let my opponent come over the hill first so I can just unleash hell?
Ping them, exactly, yeah. And it looks like our players are ready to get going. So let's go ahead and get things started in terms of how do you think these guys are going to do? Again, mind games, headspace. Where are they right now? Well,
I'm personally not expecting another skirmish-heavy entry or opening, just because I don't think the Greenskins can manage it. Right. Like, you have Forest Goblin Riders and Wolf Riders, but they're not nearly as durable or difficult to take out as a lot of other options. Like, their leadership's very shaky because they're, they're goblins. But at the same time, the Wood Elves, it's going to be super interesting to see if Zyphus is going to rely on a very... Because Wood Elves traditionally come in 1 of 2 builds. A range build or a blitz build. Right. Where, the blitz build is all like dryads that can vanguard and just charge immediately into combat, or you have a lot of wild riders that just... Wood Elf players can kind of come in 1 of 2 flavors,
Yeah, which is nice. Keep your opponent on their toes, right? I'm curious to see how much like physical resistance reliance we see, because again, Wood Elves, they have options to get that physical resistance, and Greenskins, it's kind of tough for them to deal with that.
But they can also bring it themselves with Savage Orcs.
Right, absolutely. But Wood Elves also have a lot of magical damage output. Yeah, so I've been very curious to see how this matchup goes because of the back and forth, the potential for responses, and how these guys are going to deal with that. So let's go ahead and get ourselves onto the battlefield. This is gonna be
Talk about a blitz build.
Do you want to take us through the blitz build?
Sure. So we got 2 forest dragons, which are not only dragons that deal. They have magical. They have magic attacks, unlike most dragons, because they're technically forest spirits, and they have poison damage. So they're almost like they're a specialized dragon. Then you have tons of dryads who all have magic damage and physical resistance. Yep. Lots of wild riders who don't have magic damage, but they make up for it by being very, very fast and hitting really, really hard on the charge. They're very maneuverable, and they do have high physical resistance. And then we have Sisters of the Thorn, who bring some bonus debuff magic and buff magic, and of course have some very nasty javelins. This is kind of what I was expecting, but I was not expecting the 2 dragons.
Yeah, that's nice to see some beasties out there. And on the other side of the field, we are seeing the ridge being rushed a little bit. And oh my God!
I eat my words.
Look at this! Look at all the Goblin Wolf Rider archers going in for some skirmishing action right at the start. Forest Goblin Spider Rider archers as well for that poison. Back over here, we have a Goblin Wolf chariot. We do have Azag up in the air. Oh, I wonder how that's going to play out.
He's going to need to... Man, Zyphus, or Yellin Ollie is going to need to be very, very careful with his control of Azag.
Absolutely. And we do have... I mean, he's coming in there with Spirit Leech and that Sun, so hoping to get a nice Sun cast. But I don't know, against all of that, I don't know how that's going to play out. We do have some Black Orcs, some Night Goblins, and these Black Orcs over here as well. So, you know, something of a front line to try and deal with...
got some 8-legged freaks up here, too.
Exactly. I was saving the best for, I guess, second last. We've got 2 Arachnarok spiders, one of them being the Arachnarok Queen, who is able to bring those hatchlings in as well, the little baby spiders, and that can be extremely helpful in bogging down movement.
Yeah, but, I mean, they'll be good for maybe locking in the cab, but traditionally the spiderlings are really good for hunting archers and not great fighters, because they do have leadership, so they can be scattered.
Right.
But it's gonna be interesting to... see what happens. What do we have on the Night Goblin?
The Night Goblin is just chilling back over here, coming in with...
Morkel Fix It!
Morkel Fix It, so that's... I haven't seen...
Or no, is that Itchy Nuisance?
I'm going to try and get if he's going to stay still for me for a second. I'm going to take a quick gander at that Gorkel Fix It.
Oh, Gorkel Fix It, yeah.
Not a bad call. You know, I actually haven't
Gotta
seen...
trust my gut.
Yeah, exactly. Go with the gut. I haven't seen Gorkel Fix It for a long time.
Oh, but you know what? Look at that effect. Minus 50% speed against that Blitz. Oh, man, look at this deployment.
This is...
Those Wolf Riders. Uh-oh.
I cannot wait until the action gets going. So, you know what? I guess there won't be any skirmishing after all. This is intense. Everywhere across the board there, getting that forward deployment, wanting to charge in.
Oh man, the opening of this battle is going to be the wildest 5 seconds I think I've ever seen in a battle.
Absolutely, and I don't know. You know what? I mean, those spiders are going to try and rush into the Wild Riders as quickly as possible to try and bog them down. We'll see Gorkel Fix It to try and slow things down, but a massive number of Greenskin units are going to die right away. Here we go. Here we go.
Oh, man. So those Wolf Riders are almost instantly broken.
Oh, this is insanity.
Oh, nope, there they go.
Oh, they managed to get away, but no, there we go. We get some breaks, and the dragon's back here, and the Glade Lord atop that dragon as well, able to just kind of get involved.
Instant wah popped.
Wah is kicking off right now.
Okay, this is madness.
This is insane, but look at that immediate aggression from both sides, of course, wanting to protect their assets up front. Over here, we're going to get an early Spirit Leech, trying to get that focused damage done.
If those Wild Riders and Sisters of Thorn can escort all those Goblin units off the field immediately, the Greenskins are going to have lost 50% of their army in one fell swoop.
Exactly, and I do think that the Sisters of Thorn and those Wild Riders back there are very much aware of that and trying to take advantage of that situation. Now, you'll see those Forest Goblin Spider Rider archers are still willing to fight, but for
that dragon is not... Oh, here comes Gorkel Fix It!
Yeah.
He can't move, and there are 2 spiders coming right up on him.
Absolutely, and these spiders are going to do a lot of hurt.
They have anti-large.
They have anti-large and armor piercing, so that's going to be a lot of work. And you can see the damage done there. We did get a breath there, I think, but it didn't do too much work. And there you have it, that dragon.
That's kind of more of a cough than a breath.
A bit of a spittle, I guess, yeah. And this dragon is routing, but I think they're going to try and not let it get away, because if it comes back, it still has 50% health.
Yeah, and we can see those Black Orcs are carving up those Dryads like there's no tomorrow. And, man, this is crazy. Like, the Wood Elves, yeah, they got rid of the Wolf Riders really quick, but they kind of... It seemed like Zyphus almost wasn't sure where to go.
Exactly.
Being in the middle of the Greenskin army on accident.
Here comes a glorious rear charge. Oh my god. The morale damage is typically significant, but the Black Orcs are Black Orcs.
They have a lot of armor, and the Wild Riders, the problem with them is they don't have a lot of AP. So although they have a super high charge bonus, they kind of bounced.
Exactly, yeah. They didn't do too much at all, and they might want to actually pull back into safety after that. Shield of Thorns going down.
Oh, that's a really good cast for that. That physical resistance is going to help a bunch.
Significantly. And then off on this side over here, we have these Black Orcs, doing a good job just, again, carving through some of these units. Those Dryads are leaving. These ones are next. But, you know, they have taken a fair bit of damage. If a dragon were to dive in there for a quick second, try to get away from those spiders first, that's a lot of work.
Man, look at so wow, 3 of those Wolf Riders managed to get away, and that Life Spellsinger is in a bad place.
Yep, not the neighborhood you want to be hanging out in. In comes, Azag as well, wanting to finish that.
That Wyvern's hungry.
Yep, but instant response there from these dragons.
Yeah, but we've got the backup dancer coming in.
Backup dancer getting held in place, though. Good job there, just staying extremely aware of these constant threats. But it looks like, are we going to get another Spirit Leech down there? And that was a Spirit Leech on the Glade Lord. But
oh, no, but that Lord is surrounded now. We've got 2 spiders in there. You've got Spirit Leeches. And here comes Gork'll fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very slowed down, but I think maybe able to get away. We've got some of these units firing away.
Pull up, pull up.
Get out of there, buddy. There we go, taking to the air. But, these skirmishers still pushing in, getting some of those shots in, having to not able to
in the
commit.
meantime, that Dryad line is gone.
Absolutely. Melted away, just chopping down trees with their massive axes.
Yeah, orcs are gonna, they're gonna have plenty of firewood after this.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I mean, they've got a lot of momentum in favor of them. I think these black orcs are able to kind of push over. And the thing is, if the front line, I mean, those Ragnarok spiders are pretty deadly, but if there are no ground units left, then the Wood Elves will be in a lot of trouble. But they're doing a good job of, ping-ponging with their Wild Riders and keeping those spiders alive to avoid that kind of trouble.
Okay, and we do see one of the black orc units looks like it's pretty much spent. But the one there on the side, though it is isolated, is about at 50%. But it looks like Azhag, the Yellin Ollie is starting to pull all of his orcs, or his greenskins, back into a concentrated group. Here comes Wah, which means those spiders are going to be very fast.
Yep, and looks like that's going to be another Gork'll fix it, I imagine.
Man, that spell is being used to brutal effectiveness. Oh, and spiderlings.
Oh, great job with those
spider hatchlings. That dragon's not going anywhere for a bit.
That dragon is stuck in place. Doesn't have any options. Spirit Leech surrounded by these anti-large armor-piercing units. Trying to get some help with another dragon taking a bit of a suicide charge there. And just barely able to get out of there. Wow, I'm very surprised to see that happen.
Yeah, but that other dragon, look, the other dragon's totally trapped. Azhag came in behind it. He's got the mass to hold it in place, and that thing's going down.
There, well, it's given up on the fight. If it's able to push through some of the troops over here, it might get out of there because it's not being slowed down by.
Man, things are looking really bad for the Wood Elves right now.
Exactly.
Those Black Orcs just denied the entire Wood Elf army because the only significant armor piercing we have on the battlefield are the dragons. But there's so much anti-large in those Arachnaroks.
Yeah, and they're still sticking around, still, very healthy, 75-50% health, so they're not looking like going anytime soon. And this, oh my god, that was a dangerous charge for the Glade Lord.
Right in the rear from Azhag there.
Yep, Azhag's going to finish the job perhaps. Maybe we'll get, even on the way out, a Spirit Leech.
The balance of power is looking really bad.
Yeah, the Wood Elves are just barely
One
hanging on.
Spirit Leech and that general is gone.
Yep, and once the general drops, morale is going to drop across the board, and I think we'll see some mass routing.
And we even still have range support coming in from those Goblin Wolf Riders because they're so fast. They're such a cheap unit, but they can easily pull back, and that's army losses.
Yeah, looks like
another 2-0.
Wow, that was insanely aggressive from both sides of the field. I don't think I have ever seen that kind of Vanguard deployment where basically 80% of both armies are on top of each other.
Yeah, well, especially in maybe in joke games, but in a series of competition as the EVERCHOSEN.
Right.
Like, if anything, I would have thought the Greenskins were in a bad position at first because they're like, we started off with a bunch of guys on top of us, but then Zyphus kind of committed a few units chasing them off, and then the Dryads they had to kind of scatter and reorganize, and there wasn't a clean charge, and then Zyphus was permanently on the back foot.
Exactly. It's kind of hard to pick out the one moment where things went sideways for one player versus went well for the other.
I think we were just falling sideways the entire time.
Exactly. I mean, that opening act was just like, oh, I've been shoved off a cliff and now we're doing it live.
Though, considering that the Wood Elves had less models on the field, those Black Orc kill numbers are huge.
Well, yeah, we've got 111 and 79 on the Black Orcs.
And 63 on the Night Goblins.
The Night Goblins, they fought hard.
And I think ultimately, it's just those Black Orcs had so much armor, and they're immune to psych, so you can't terror them with the dragons.
Exactly.
You can't spook them off. I think those are the Warlords boys, so I think they're unbreakable.
Yeah, they're unbreakable as well.
Or the AP Looney, sorry, the unbreakable version.
Yes.
But there's 0 kills on that Forest Dragon, the bonus one, just because the instant he landed originally, Gork'll fix it, poison from Azhag and the Arachnaroks surrounded, and he got ripped apart.
I think that was what I liked most about this engagement was the use of stacking, basically. Seeing those opportune moments. It's like, you got a dragon down here, you're going to regret that, because in comes all the magic, all the poison, all of the anti-large, shutting that down.
And I'm not even thinking about, and the Wah, too. I mean, you have the Wah, which is buffing the speed. I mean, Yellin Ollie was using almost entirely speed-based strategy.
Yeah.
Gork'll fix it, lowers your speed by half, and then Wah increases it by 20%, and then Poison lowers it your enemy speed by like another 10, 20%.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
more stats, not just speed, right?
yeah, and then of course Azhag's no slouch
Yeah.
at fighting, and he has Foe Seeker for another 25%
Exactly.
speed.
And you know what? I guess I'm eating my words. I thought Azag was a risky pick, but he took barely any damage.
Dude, those Nagash whispers.
Yeah,
He was ready.
He was ready.
Nagash
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, I got an idea.
I got some plans. I mean, that was intense. That was an intense set of games. Both matchups between Aerocrasic and Dahv Plays and Zyphus, and Yellin Ollie were very, very aggressive. We saw one paced game. The first game in this matchup was very paced, and I guess you kind of called it. We were going to see some skirmishing, but then we didn't. Not at all. Instant action.
It's funny. Both of them took the same kind of strategy both games. They both took a skirmish kind of focus build, or like I'll sit back and let my army, some little units do the damage and then move forward. And then the second game, they were both like, I'm going to start right in his face.
Right. Absolutely. And I think, you know what? We've had a lot of intensity. We've had a lot of action.
Yeah, we might let's cool off for a hot minute with a show match.
Yeah,
I think now's a good moment for that.
Let's get ourselves going on to a show match. We've got a very, very exciting show match going on. And
it's kind of goofy.
It's kind of goofy, but I love the theme that it's built around. Big fan of the theme that it's built around. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it to see. I mean, do you want to give us a little?
Sure. So in light of the Gotrek and Felix, we're gonna do a blast from the past and go back to the theme of their very first book, Trollslayer, which is we're gonna have a battle for Karag 8 Peaks. Because that's originally the first time we saw Gotrek and Felix was going down into Karag 8 Peaks. So we're going to have an ultimate showdown of Belegar, Skarsnik, and Queek in a free-for-all with, there's a little extra grace here thrown in.
Exactly. Now, I'm going to say it right now. You keep calling it Karag 8 Peaks. Not my favorite name for it. Not my favorite name for it.
Excuse me? What would you call it?
Oh, you know. Something about pillars, maybe. Something about pillars.
Rat sympathizer.
You're damn right. All right.
How dare you?
Well, let's dive ourselves into this glorious recreation, I suppose. It's a free-for-all battle. We do have some YouTubers actually partaking in this. Nerd Rage Fitness is playing with us. We also have once we get the map going, we'll go over some of the players that joined us, and we have some really cheeky play, and I love some cheeky play.
You have so many catchphrases. Do you know that?
It's unintentional. It's just my true self.
Is it a Canadian thing?
Oh, maybe. I'm sorry. So, I mean, over here we've got Belegar's forces, and Belegar is actually joined by, if we can spot them nice and
they're over there on the right.
There we go.
Gotrek's a little squished behind that grudge thrower.
But we do have Gotrek and Felix, ready to dive in on the action again, recreating the past a little bit. And on the topic of diving in the action's already started. The Goblobbers lobbing those gobs.
Yeah, it's returning some of Skarsnik's lads.
Exactly. It's like, hey, you want some of your army back?
For anyone not aware, the Goblobber does use night goblins as ammunition.
And we actually have, on the topic of goblins, they're very cheeky, hiding in the trees over here.
Hey, Skarsnik's got the plans, man.
Exactly.
He knows he's got to start off in stealth.
You want schemes? He's got
schemes.
But getting aggressive, not playing it too safe or anything. Getting aggressive while also keeping the vast majority of the forces at the back over here. We do have, this giant Arachnarok spider coming in with Skarsnik over here, just hopping over with Goblin. I love the model pairing over here. They're absolutely adorable. But there's
the squigs are noble, but unfortunately they have guns.
Indeed they do. And look at Clan Angrund over here, just staying back, not really getting too aggressive.
Man, if only the Skaven had some kind of sneaky third agent they could rely on. If only Queek, in his hatred for Greyseers, maybe sent the Greyseer by himself to another part of the battlefield.
Yeah, maybe on a bit of a suicide mission, maybe taking a bit of a risk. So there is, again, that cleverness going on over here that I always love seeing. Taking a slow route through the trees over here. A single unit army, actually. This is brought in by Josh. So gonna move in, going to get probably spotted by these miners over here. Needing to be very careful about how he's going to get this move going. Yeah. Off in the distance, sure, we have some fighting going on, but it's
something important.
There's something very important going to happen over here, and I think that Greyseer has been spotted.
Gotrek and Felix they're like, it's thankful, get him!
Exactly, run, and in they go, trying to move as quickly as they can, and they're pretty fast. Gotrek is pretty fast as well, moving in there.
Thankful second cousin.
Needing to be very careful. This Greyseer, as you can see, of the plague, already low on morale.
And just as he's coming in, the other Skaven player actually is coming around that forest as well. But you see, he's getting a little carved up, but then the worst case happens.
Absolute worst case. Tries to get a cast off, gets interrupted there, moves around, and look at this focus now, needing to shut this down, but not quite able to. In comes the Vermintide.
Move those dwarven legs!
Yeah, they have to get out of there, but that's not all, folks. We've got more coming. We have these Quarrelers responding immediately, I think, to the aggression over there, but, back over here very safely, kind of moving around, trying to get into a good position to drop one of my favorite visual feasts over here. There it is. Look at this beautiful plague as it rips through these Quarrelers, and the Quarrelers just not responding quickly enough. The damage done over here. Finally,
what a rude spell.
What a rude spell. Just this giant magical rat bashing away at you. Did some wonderful work, and here's the funniest part: being chased since the beginning of being revealed.
He's too fast.
He's just too fast. He's just getting away. He does not care.
It's the problem with Skaven. That's the only thing Skaven can reliably do well is run away.
Run away. I mean, he's skitter leaping out of there as quick as he can.
I've seen some purple bullets. That must mean there are some Giselles to our south.
Yeah, it looks like we have this flank pulling off very nicely as well. Natty Bubbo's sharpshooters, so they can fire away, but they still won't be seen.
Yep, and there shatters the War Machine crews.
Yep.
The Organ Gun and the Goblubber. So the Dwarves now have no artillery, just as quick head takers coming in through that forest.
Yep, so they're being forced to engage. We have these rats pushing on through.
Led by an assassin.
Led by an assassin over here as well. Yeah, but we've got some of these giant slayers and slayers being committed to this flank over here, lest something bigger and badder comes rolling in. Like
and we can see Skarsnik is doing just like he does in the lore. He smells blood in the water, so here he comes.
And this is also a pretty intense fight. I mean, it's great to see so many of these goblins just kind of hiding in there and firing away, getting that work done from a safe distance. And
speaking of Skarsnik, I think he's kind of having a bad time after hanging out with Belagar there. Got Skarsnik in the back running through that forest, but thankfully. But he always leaves just in time.
Just in time.
Little jerk.
And I think tucking away in the forest over there, trying to stay hidden. I don't know if that'll be an option, but wise play. Get involved and get out before things get too messy. Pull back, scheme again, and look at the aggression. I mean, it's really nice to see when the time came. Sensed blood.
Oh wait, that's not Skarsnik. That's that goofy little Grayseer.
This is the. Oh yeah, this is the.
Skarsnik would never put himself in such a position. He's at the back of the goblins.
Of course he is. Yeah, sorry, a little color mix up there, and yeah, but you're right. Skarsnik, just chilling back here, chilling like a villain. Not really.
Would you say he's looking physically attractive?
I would say so. Very physically attractive. Quite.
What's going on in that forest down there?
In this forest, we're having a massive mosh pit. A little bit of runic support over here. The rune of Oath and Steel, providing a little bit of extra armor to try and I think hold off the damage coming through from.
The Council Guard. Oh, nice bombs.
Yeah, good bomb drops over here from up in the air. Decent bit of work being done.
Oh, but the Skaven got a counter. It's a little zappier than bombs, but it hurts just as much.
Oh, look at that. Just look at that. Beautiful done. I mean, there's
Gotrek and Felix in that mess.
Are Gotrek and Felix in this mess?
There's somewhere on this battle.
There's Gotrek, yeah, and Felix right beside him, absolutely.
In the thick of it.
In the thick of it. Look at that. Great toss for that poor dwarf over there. These guys, again, just trying to take
care. And remember, you can pick them up right now on Access.
Exactly. They are available on Total War Access. Just got to sign in and get a hold of them. And
but anyway.
So much fun, as you can see. They get a lot of work done over there.
Oh, here we go. Skarsnik and Belagar have seen each other. With that Grayseer cowering in the middle, trying not to be noticed.
Yeah, that Grayseer just doesn't. It's like, okay, I find myself in the worst neighborhood possible. You guys deal with your grudges. I'm going to leave, please and thank you.
I think we're about to have a heroic showdown here of the ages.
Perhaps we are.
Of course, a Grayseer would just run by.
Oh yeah. Still getting involved, shutting down some of these Thunderers. Okay, I was worried that those rats would get involved over here.
There we go. There's a matchup of the ages.
There we go. Gobbler just trying to get some gobbling done. A little hungry looking over here. But, I mean,
the backflip suplex with the mouth.
Gobbler.
Oh, but a perfectly timed wah. Skarsnik is juicing Gobbler up.
And this is looking, I mean, the goblins are doing a very good job. Basically,
Yeah.
I believe this is an all-goblin
dwarves,
army.
this is literally what happened to the dwarves every time. Anytime they would try and get a one-up by having a good position, the Skaven would backstab them, and then Skarsnik would come from the other direction. Once the dwarves are dead, then they'll fight each other.
That's so Skaven and that's so Skarsnik. I mean, I love, this is again one of my favorite kind of situations between these factions, and I love to see this battle played out like this because it's getting very aggressive now. It feels like an actual battle for home turf, And we've got the Arachnarok Spider over here helping. Of course, this couldn't be a duel.
No, Skarsnik never plays fair.
Yeah.
That's for dwarves.
Exactly. This couldn't be a duel. I mean, but, ultimately, Belagar is made to kind of give up on the fight perhaps a little bit. He is terrified, so he's gonna run away a little bit. Doesn't want to stay involved. While back over here, the Skaven Slingers now just firing away, peppering some shots, and while in the forest...
those dwarves are about to get sandwiched. What's left of them. But Gotrek and Felix are still fighting.
Still sticking out over here, and we've got some of these Plague Monks and all pushing through. I think trying to hold off some of these charges.
Oh, here come the Fanatics through the Skaven.
Oh. Just twirling around. I love seeing, again, these guys just kind of
those are the ones with dwarves.
Losing the control because they're from...
Day Peak Loonies.
Day Peak Loonies, exactly. Balded dwarves.
The Grace here finally got put down somewhere.
Oh, good. Finally, about time. That one unit army, though, has done pretty well for the Skaven. Helped significantly.
He forced the dwarves out with that treachery.
Exactly, like forced the dwarves to get engaged. And over here, we've got the Runesmith popping a Rune of Negation in this situation over here. We've got Gotrek and Felix, I think, going toe-to-toe with some Stormrun with Sword and Shield. Just wanting to, I guess, maybe finish them off without taking too much hurt. And these Teethbreakers perhaps lining up to get some shots in as well. Find a good angle to fire in from. And we've got these miners also creeping in. The fighting in the forest is almost done, I think. Things are trying to calm down a little bit on that front. And over here, as well, kind of taking some time to breathe and relax as these Doomflayers are pushing through to maybe get a nice rear charge into these Night Goblins.
Oh man, those are about to be some goblin-shaped stains on the ground.
In they come, and down they
I want a motorcycle
go.
like that.
Oh, absolutely. I would love one.
I mean, it wouldn't be good for the local roads.
Listen, I would ride it the same way and everything, just hang off the back of it. And back over here, we have some shots being traded. The Teethbreakers are firing away. They have their concealment bombs active, but that's not doing anything.
The dwarves are like, nah.
Yeah, not so
None
concealed. But, I mean, in this kind of like, quote-unquote, toe-to-toe, back-and-forth firing, it doesn't look like the Thunderers are having a good time. They might actually want to tuck into the trees.
No, unfortunately, and that's kind of what doomed the dwarves in the end as well, is that they didn't advance their technology fast enough. How are you supposed to win with rifles against Gatling guns?
Against Gatling guns, yeah. Impossible. And meanwhile, we hover over the Gutter Runner Slingers. Back over here, I think...
It's an ancient technique. At Clan Eshin's, you gotta be traditional.
Of course, yeah. Gotta hang on to traditions. We do also have the Dwarf Thing Menace over here with Rune of Wrath and Ruin stuck on it, so it is stuck in place.
Ooh, nice hit, Gotrek.
Boom, nicely done. Gotrek is getting some work in, still at 75% health.
Oh yeah. Well, this is nothing. A bunch of scrawny rats. It's like any Longbeard would say. The rats were bigger when I was young.
When I was young. I mean, true, absolutely true. And again, right, as I said before, notoriously bad at his dream job as a Slayer. Do you want to touch on Slayers a little bit and explain?
Yeah, sure. So basically, Dwarf Slayers are these really crazy guys. They're dwarves who have had such a deep shame or guilt inflicted upon them that they decide the only way they can atone themselves is to die gloriously in battle. But it's a really strict rule set. You're not allowed to wear armor, and you can take any weapons you want, but you have to fight as hard as you can, or you don't get into the afterlife. You get stuck in purgatory.
Exactly.
Nope. And it just to make it extra stressful, so does all of your ancestors and your descendants.
That sounds fair. But yeah, the Slayer concept is so fun. So, they want to have a glorious death, but Gotrek is just
I don't think we've seen Gotrek die today. He's survived every single game that he's been in.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Felix has been eating it pretty hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Felix has been, which is too bad because he's supposed to be writing the stories.
Yeah, he's got to record it.
Yeah, he's got to be writing the stories. So what's the point? These Teethbreakers, though, getting a lot of work done. In fact, I think they've got about 43 kills. Still.
Nah, they're there for the damage. They're just having a good time. How's that spider doing back there?
Spider over here is looking.
Is that Quick Head Taker? There's the man, the myth, the legend.
Indeed.
Or rat.
The man, the myth, the legend. We'll go with it, and he's going to charge into the spider over here. I don't know if he's going to get tossed back right away. Of course he is.
He got an attack off.
Yeah.
Oh, but you know what? He's just acting as cover because those rattling guns back there are loading up.
Yeah, they're going to try and, I guess, turn around and start firing away. Oh, no, they're kind of a hesitant shot over
Cursed wood elf trees. Oh, here it comes.
There we go. And just focusing down. Big target.
Yeah, can't miss, right?
Yeah. Easy shots. Well, you say that, but
you might hit some other Skaven. They were probably contesting you for Chieftain anyway.
Which arguably counts for a good hit, I would say.
Oh, nice Fanatics coming in there.
Yeah, a little bit of damage done. So again, this is a free for all, right? So it's every man, woman, dwarf, goblin, spider, everything rat for themselves, and monsters abound right now up top. So
Skarsnik is ahead.
Skarsnik is ahead, but just barely, just ever so barely ahead over there. And it looks like these Teeth Breakers, again, trying to get into position, using those concealment bombs to decent effect over here now. Moving into a position.
I mean, Rattling Guns, you get on them and they just...
Dead. Instant dead, exactly. But we have these Night Goblin Archers over here firing away at some of these Plague Monks, and I think their Teeth Breaker cousins over here not too happy about that, so they want to maybe roll in and get some shots into their backs.
Actually, I think they want some spider... what's a dish you would make spider? I almost said calamari, but what would you make spiders into?
Spider calamari could work, but we have
the squids, right? Kind of close.
Yeah, that's close enough. They got the.
Oh, but it looks like Gotrek and Felix are kind of in that forest. Just looks like that's where the teeth. Man, the bad moon
looks so glorious as it moon dances, moon walks its way down towards the trees.
God. Please stop.
I can't help myself. I can't help myself. It is my duty. We do have, Gotrek and Felix in this forest. So they have spent their entire battle, I think, in these woods over here.
Yeah, just curious, what are our kills on Gotrek and Felix?
Gotrek and Felix right now. Felix at 69 kills, and we've got Gotrek at 100.
Doing his job, man.
He's getting his... No, failing at his job. But
you have to try. You can't just let yourself
That
die.
is true. He's putting that work in. And I think part of it has to do with, I mean, he's been fighting rats, right? So very numerous, very easy for him to just kind of cleave and kill.
Oh, that spider just went to the wrong place.
Yeah, left itself
Are those
exposed.
Jezzails pursuing the spider in melee?
Natty Bubbles sharpshooters, yep.
Hit him with the gun.
just poke and stab. I mean, those shields, I don't know how much good they're going to do.
Basically lances, right?
Yeah, exactly. They count. If you rush in fast enough, I suppose, that spider is not having a good time.
Oh, Scarsnake, over to our left here. Looks like he's going up against the Head Taker, and it looks like it's not going well for him.
No, not too much. Head Taker looking to take some heads, I suppose, giving chase. This is 2 for the price of 1. 2 heads to be had over here. Queek using Dwarf Gouger, but that's being wasted a little bit because of this, because of that route.
Scarslake's like, you know what? This real estate's a little overrated. I'm gonna go make some schemes back at home.
Exactly. These Night Goblin Archers as well being forced to give up on the fight, and the tide has changed. So,
oh, Gotrek is getting gunned.
Oh, this is not good. Gotrek getting focused down by those rattling gun weapons teams.
Oh, they're running low on ammo. Could you imagine the panic of seeing Gotrek running at you and you're almost out of ammo?
Oh god, you just don't mention it.
Oh, uh-oh, they're out of ammo.
Well, time for some Musketeer, maybe time to run away, or maybe they'll do like the Jezzails and chase in.
I think it's definitely going to be Musketeer either way. Oh, look, there it is now.
Yeah, the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, slowing these guys down. Felix is like, you were shooting at my friend, and that is not okay.
I can't record him getting shot to death. That's not a glorious death.
Not glorious. I'll change it in post. But in they go. These Teeth Breakers are done for. But we do have the Dwarf Thing Menace here, pushing in towards
Gotrek.
Gotrek.
Is that another Bad Moon just wailing around back there?
Off in the distance. Yep, just another Curse of the Bad Moon. But
Gotrek's having none of that.
Yeah, look at that, just standing in place like a champ, breaking that first piece of equipment immediately.
You think Skaven have good insurance policies?
I should hope so at the rate of things exploding on them.
I'll give you a hint, they don't.
The premium's probably way too high. Oh, what do we got going on over here? Some more runic support, just trying to, stick it to whatever they can. Gotrek pretty low on health right now, 25%. This might be the closest we've seen him come to death. Turning around.
I wonder if he'll achieve his doom in this fight.
Oh, quite possibly, as in comes some range support from these far-off Gutter Runner Slingers. Just
a rock. That'll kill him.
You know what? Sometimes a rock in the right place, a rock to the eye. What else have we got going on?
Gotrek only has one.
Yeah.
At this point.
To the eye?
Of all the things he could have lost his original eye to, he lost it to a Goblin Wolf Rider.
But they write it like that? I feel like Felix is failing at his job as well, if that's what he wrote it like.
I think he may have spruced it up a little.
Yeah, exactly. Add some zazz to it. But this is looking like the grand kind of...
Oh, it looks like we're getting Queek against Gotrek and Felix over here in a moment. Yeah. Oh. Queek Headtaker is leading what's left of his legions against the dynamic duo.
Yeah, he wants Karag 8 Peaks, as you put it. He wants it. It is his. It's mine, he says, as he chases with this Warlock Engineer as well. The Warlock Engineer got some work in as well, 54 kills. We saw some good Warp Lightnings.
Yeah, that's probably where most of them came from.
Exactly, and he's also got, I really like the Warp Armor.
Oh, here we go. Here Queek goes.
Oh, Queek diving back in here. Getting in on Felix over there. Gotrek, still sticking there, still in that mosh pit again, just getting some damage done. Got that deadly
he's
onslaught
like,
as well.
come here, boy.
Yeah. He's like, oh, okay, Queek, you want to fight? Let's fight. Oh, here we go. This is a very deadly position for Gotrek to be in.
Bang! Oh, typical Queek. Finally gets a what? Copters!
Where did these copters come from? in for the rescue. Got to save Gotrek and Felix
Typical
in there.
Queek, man. Finally, a fair challenge shows up, and he just splits.
Pulls back into safety.
What a rat.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And some bombs left as well almost. No, that was a gyrocopter going down and exploding. To some sharpshooters. What's going on over here? Queek, though. Pulling back in.
To the bitter end, back to back.
Duel of the ages, unless Queek decides to give up again.
Nah, I think he's willing to bully Felix. I think it's Gotrek he's scared of.
He's scared of.
You
I
know,
mean,
rightfully so, but Gotrek's like, come here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's done a good
Thorgrim
job.
may have technically got the OG kill, but this will be a fun retcon.
I will accept this retcon, absolutely. And it looks like, yeah, Queek once more pulling away. Verminous Valor getting that extra speed. Stand your ground for the morale. And we've got, look at this, Gutter Runner Slingers with poison.
Oh, so it's Gotrek versus ninjas.
I guess it is, yeah. And in come the Jazales. Don't discount the Jazales when it comes to melee, am I right?
I think Gotrek's all that's left. I think, he's, okay, now he sees Queek.
Oh, this is trouble, though. He's
Man,
got
he's going to
trophy
be
heads
taking
on him.
so much damage from all those Eshin lads.
Oh, good.
What a slap.
Good slap there, exactly. But yeah, the poking and prodding, you know, the slow damage, especially with trophy heads on top of him, just reducing his melee stats.
Oh yeah, trophy. Yeah, that's what's gonna doom him. That trophy heads.
Yeah.
And he's got no armor. He's a slayer.
Exactly.
So he's going down to sheer mass. Oh, but he got his heal proc.
Nice.
Oh, but look, he's already at his healing cap.
Yeah, he's extremely low on health as well. This might be it for Gotrek. This might be it for him because he's at his healing cap. He can't pull away though.
But Skaven Slayer is only book 2. He can't die here.
Well, you know.
Oh, our
Apparently
great
he
hero
can.
has fallen.
Apparently he can. So what's left on the battlefield over here? Oh, we
Felix,
have
man.
Felix in
Going
rage.
going to revenge his friend.
Exactly.
Grammar.
Revenge
I got
his
this.
friend. There's a catchphrase. Revenge your friend, Felix. He's gonna get some work done. He does have the stats to fight some of these slingers and whatnot.
You know what? I think he needs to peace out to go record Gotrek's death. I mean, that's the deal. That was their bargain.
Exactly. You know what? It was a pretty epic death, all things considered. It was a pretty epic death. Oh, no one's gonna be writing anything down, I don't think.
Ooh, he'll be fine. He needs to walk it off.
A Verminous Valor to cap things off.
Was that like a bragging
like
Verminous Valor?
A taunting Verminous Valor over there? Oh my, what's left on the battlefield over here? We might have...
Oh, you know what? There's a little duel going on here that's about to end in a hot second. It's that Warlock Engineer just poking a Runesmith in the face.
Poking away, quote-unquote magic to magic battle. That was an extremely intense free-for-all over there.
My heart's wounded, man.
A little hurt?
I'm a little hurt.
A little hurt? I'm sorry to hear that, man. I'm sorry to hear that.
Look at those skills, though, on Gotrek.
I mean, he is an absolute beast slayer. Amazing. Amazing action. 226 kills.
Why do you do this to me?
I'm sorry. I warned you. I gave him fair warning. I warned you, man.
I thought my rule said no puns.
Must have skipped that part.
Oh, yeah.
But no, Gotrek and Felix both putting on a brilliant show. 127 kills on Felix.
You know what? Belagar made a classic mistake, though. He was so focused on Skarsnik and his hatred of Skarsnik that he just wasn't paying attention to the rats.
Yeah.
He wasn't focused, and he thought he was invincible in his little thing. He's like, we'll hold here till we die. Next thing you know, it's Grace here.
Exactly. Oh, that opening was beautiful. it was so beautiful. Just sneaking through the trees, one solo unit sneaking through the trees, finding the perfect spot to drop some Vermintide, drop 2 Vermintides, I think it was, and a plague.
And he just had to shatter them.
Yep.
Like, if they had just broken, they could have come back, but no.
Yep.
The Skaven, of course, the Horned Rat's like, I'm just going to cheat.
Exactly. And then got out of there. Like a slippery rat, like a slippery rodent.
But, of course, Skarsnik got away with the highest percentage, and he's going to go back to his scheming. Belagar, though wounded, I'm sure he'll be back, and this eternal siege will continue.
Absolutely.
So with that, I think it's time for us to go to a break, and then we're going to be back with some more games in just a little bit.
Exactly, yeah.
So we'll see you guys in just a little while.
Spoils of war, home for me. bois, en famille. Spoils à bois, en famille. Spoils à bois, en famille. Spoils à bois, en famille. Und verlieh. Spoils of war. Und verlieh.
We'll recap it. All right, guys, and welcome back to the fall EverChosen Invitational.
Yes.
I am, again, Italian Spartacus, and to my right we have the Mighty Turn, as I call him. Let's kind of recap that first round there, right? I mean, we had a pretty intense first half, like a little bit of an upset and a really awesome display of Gotrek and Felix coming out of Dahv Plays.
I think we saw Gotrek and Felix both games.
Yeah.
Because I think he played Bretonnia and then he played Dwarves. I was actually really surprised that he didn't come in with the Empire.
That's
like his
thing.
thing,
That's his thing,
right?
Yeah. But I mean, it was awesome to see him. Like you saw Gotrek like chasing down, not L'Ariel,
A multitude of beasts.
Yeah. L'Ariel, the nobles, the dragons, like, and he was just Brian blessed mad the whole time, frothing from the mouth.
Oh, that's such good voice
acting. And the cool thing too is like Lore Master of Sotek was articulating. He had Felix there, so he was able to get a lot of healing from his passive aura. They could trade back and forth with their ward saves. Like, there's a lot of awesome synergies that you can do with those two.
There are certainly some niche applications. Like, I wouldn't say that Gotrek and Felix are the most competitive picks. I mean, what's cool about Felix as it pertains to the dwarves is dwarf characters, dwarf lords, they are silver shields, 120 armor, just ready to party.
No healing.
But yeah, I mean, no healing. But again, being able to heal things that tanky is very powerful, and that's why sometimes when you watch like 2v2 events and things like that, you can really see that when dwarves team up with like a healing faction, it's like, oh boy, it's going to be hard to take down those iron breakers. But yeah, I think that in a way it can be good, but it does thin out your army quite a bit, because if you get Gotrek and Felix, that's going to be like, I think, like combined, they cost close to 3,000.
Yeah,
if not like in the mid 2,000s,
like 18 and 1,200, I think, respectively.
Yeah, it's super pricey. So again, I think it can be a bit of a trap. It's really fun and can be powerful. And I think one of the issues with them is that when you bring them, the game will often devolve into just them and your heroes fighting, and you're like, oh, this is really close, they're doing well. But in reality, the rest of your army just crumbled because you invested so much in those guys, and you don't have assets to deal with charging cav on the flanks and different things like that. But situational, I think one or two can be good. I think both is a bit of a trap. But
right. Well, as Admiral Akbar always says, it's a good life lesson to know it's a trap. So you do.
I thought you were going to do like the full impersonation.
It's a trap!
There we go. Yeah, the more guttural kind of fish.
You know, when you bring up Admiral Akbar, I feel like you kind of just have to do it.
But yeah, it was a good series though. It was incredibly close.
Yeah.
One of the games was a little bit quicker, the Norska versus Dwarf game, but the second game, Bretonnia versus High Elves,
that was a long game.
Yeah.
It was prolonged.
I actually thought Dahv was going to take that because there was nobles on chariots, which are very powerful against infantry, but they were at many points surrounded by Bretonnian heavy cav and kind of pinned down. I was like, I think Dahv might be able to get this, because Gotrek was coming with his big old axe. It was like, but it just didn't happen.
There was a lot of really early aggression towards the dragon too. It got staggered away from its breath attack. There was a lot of really awesome elements in that fight.
Yeah, and Arrow's just so like. Those high-level tournament players, I mean, and Dahv included, I mean, it's just so hard to finish them off. Like, even if you think you have it, and like you're just like, oh, it's like they just always get away just by the hair. Like
they can
hair on their
swing
chins,
it. They can swing it so much. Like, it can be a real foregone conclusion where it's like, oh, okay, well, there goes this, and this. Well, it's going to swing back the opposite direction now.
It was a great game, and then I think we actually had a pretty substantial upset. Like
I was going to say, let's talk about our second match.
Zyphus versus Yellin Ollie, and the second game especially, when it was kind of like, so if you're playing Wood Elves. It's kind of like a game of I'm trying to think of the perfect analogy, but it's really just a toss-up, because if you're playing Wood Elves, there's really two primary ways to play. One of them is going to be spamming Way Watchers with Prey of Anathrema, taking out high-value targets, and the other way is just doing like a Dragon Wild Rider blitz with like Helm of Discord.
Right.
And Yellin Ollie, who's kind of like, all right, do I go super wide to deal with the the traditional Way Watcher play, or do I bring double Spider with anti-large to defeat the dragons? It's like he literally had like a 50-50 choice right there. is such a gamble, but in the end, he made the right choice, and those spiders just gave the business.
Yeah, they were in it the whole entire match. And, you know, those spiders have a pretty notorious low leadership, as all
Anti-large,
Greenskins.
though, so good.
Yeah, but as all Greenskins do. So it's like when you have a terror-causing unit, which I believe they cause terror too. So they're then immune to that terror. So forget what I said. But at the same time, they typically have that low leadership. They do suffer from that, and it makes controlling those arachnarch spiders a little bit trickier. But
tricky business, man.
Yellin Ollie was able to keep him in the fight and push Zyphus out, getting a 2-0 win and pushing him in to those semifinals for tomorrow.
It's gonna be a real great match between him and Aero for sure. And yeah, he kept his army together, like you said, Greenskins low leadership for the most part. But another part of the game that was incredible was his Azag control. Azag is really quick. He actually has 110 speed on his Wyvern, whereas I think the dragons are in the 90s. So he was able to outmaneuver the dragon. Granted, had he been poisoned for like even a second and caught by the double dragon, he would have been in trouble. But he did not let himself get caught once. He always came in, got those just cheap, dirty Greenskin backstabbing tactics going on, and then was able to get away. While the spiders on the ground were just anchoring, and the Black Orcs, like, who would have thought months ago, like, oh yeah, bring Black Orcs against like one of the most mobile factions.
Wood Elves especially.
But the metagame has kind of changed in a way that Wood Elves do often blitz, and if you bring Orc Boys and Biggins, like, who have 50 and below armor, the frickin' Wild Riders just go ham on them. So it was great. It was beautiful play. Like
you were saying towards the end of that battle, like off screen, of course, you were saying if he had brought one unit of Way Watchers, he would have deleted those.
Yeah, the Way Watchers are like a hard counter against such big targets. I mean, they're hard counter against anything they shoot, essentially, except for like high model count goblins, Orc Boys who are just like inexpensive and things like that, because they can't run out of ammo, and that is a substantial issue. But now, my friend, we move on.
We got our next
half.
match.
This is going to be great because we have Tlaxplan Soothsayer, the Dark Lord. Well, I call Falcon and him Dark Lord, but close. But one of many Dark Lords in this tournament.
There's so many. They're from the shadow.
So of course, Tlaxplan Soothsayer, the winner of the 2nd and 4th EverChosen, and he's facing off against Chief, who is a newcomer to the EverChosen, but certainly not a newcomer to the
representing the Iberian Peninsula. He's going to bring in some frothy heat, hopefully.
He's a great player, and for the first match, I think it's about time we jump in and
we're going to be having the
take a look see here.
Tlaxplan Soothsayer versus Chief, and Chief is going to be on the Lizardman. While we load into this battle here, it looks like they're both ready to get going. Do remember that, of course, it is Warhammer weekend. It is a 66% off of Total War Warhammer 2 and a 75% off Total War Warhammer 1.
It's pretty good and tasty.
Oh, man, it's going to get way more tasty. I got something good for you. It's also half off all the DLC with a 20% off of Prophet and Warlock. Right. I somehow remembered all that without even looking at the note sheet.
That was great, man.
You know what?
I'm impressed.
MVP.
Incredibly solid stuff. Like you said, Wood Elves versus some dinosaurs. So again, it kind of is that same conundrum.
The Way Watchers.
Do you go Way Watchers, which is incredibly efficient against big dinosaur play? So if they're coming in with like Carnosaurs and Stegodons and other beasts of that nature, the Way Watchers, and for anyone who's new to the game, Way Watchers are probably one of the best archer units in the game. Absolutely, they have incredible range, the huge armor piercing values, and are really good against big dinos. However, they're very expensive. Very expensive, Bob. And the thing,
you agree with you, Bill?
His name's actually Ryan, but very expensive. And if you invest too heavily in those, and then your opponent doesn't bring any high-value assets to focus down, things can get a little bit dicey.
You're just wasting shots, more or less. There's nothing really to focus on at that point. You've wasted all that money, like you said. You have a limited amount of funds. So again, if this is the first time joining, you have 12,500 funds.
400.
12,400?
12.4.
Yeah, 12.4 thousand. Yeah, I said it right. Funds that you can then allocate to your units in the multiplayer fashion, so that you can have individual character units, heroes, lords, all sorts of fun chicanery.
Yeah, so if you were to like go into a quick battle, which there's a couple ways to play multiplayer. You can go into quick battles, which is like a ranked system for any other RTS game, and you go into the quick battle, you play, you and your opponent each pick a faction. You have 12,400 gold to spend in conjunction with some unit caps. But for custom battles, of course, you can go huge and things like that. But most tournaments, most competitive formats are played within 12,400, unless there's like a 2v2 tournament or
something a little more
a little bit spicy like that. But yeah, it looks like we're into the first match here. Do you want to talk about the glorious Wood Elves, or would you like to talk about the Lizard People?
You know what? You talk about the Lizard People, and I will do my lovely Elves.
All right, sounds good.
So taking a look at this front line here, we got the mighty Durthu, Optimus Pine as he is sometimes jokingly called. Now this is a tree man. He is one of the oldest tree men as well. And he has quite a lot of things going for him. He does have Frenzy, which is a great little kit advantage here, but he doesn't have any of his trademark spells.
Just a beat stick.
Yep, no special items.
He does kind of have the Optimus Prime sword.
He does, which is so great. Like he's looking for a Megatron to beat down, and hopefully we'll get one in the Lizardmen.
Yeah.
But moving throughout the rest of this army here, we can see a nice Dryad Dryad center line, 1, 2, 3, 4 units of them. Now, the Dryads, they're pretty great when it comes to dealing out with a little bit of damage. But
good against light armor.
Exactly. They do suffer from pretty low leadership. They will need to stay relatively close to some sort of leadership elements and not get too well surrounded so that we'll crumple them. Now, in the very front row, we've got some Eternal Guard bringing, and I honestly think that the Eternal Guard are an amazing,
they're so good.
Yeah, core unit choice. You know, they've got AP, they've got anti-large, they've got charge defense against large units. In addition, these are the shielded variants, which have silver shields. Again, if this is your first time joining, bronze shields give us a 35% or 25%.
I believe it's somewhere in that range, and then the silver shields are
50% or 55% resistance to small arms fire. Now, on that back line, we're going to see some, I believe those Eternal Guard.
These are actually, it looks like Dryads and then Starfire Shafts. So these are
Blade Guard, sorry, yes.
Yeah, they're the armor-piercing ones.
Yeah, and that, they also have fire attacks. That's going to help out with anything regeneration on them, because it will help out because they do have a native weakness to fire. Now, as far as their spellcaster, we're going to see a Spellsinger of Life with both Earthblood and Regrowth, and some Sisters of Thorn to help out with Curse of Anriel as well as Shield of Thorns. But why don't you talk about them Lizardmen?
Yeah, absolutely. And just some final thoughts on the Wood Elf army. I really like the fact that he does have the shielded Eternal Guard, because again, Skink play is very, very good
common
against light armor. So, and Wood Elves are a very lightly armored faction. So seeing all these Chameleon Skinks, it's great poke. So basically, what he's going to do is basically put the Eternal Guards out front and use them as a screen so that the Dryads don't get free poke on them. But for the Lizard army, it looks like we have a front line of Chameleon Skinks, a masterful skirmishing unit, very good against, you know, the most of the roster, to be honest. Now, they can get chased down and kind of pushed by Sisters of Thorn and Wild Riders, but for the most part, they're very sticky, very annoying, and they also do have an innate 40% missile resist, so I love that. And his army is very wide, which, like I said, is counterplay against Way Watchers and things like that. And the secondary, he's got a bunch of Skink cohorts, again, just more chaff, shielded. And the big thing is going to be his missile play coming in from the Laser Lizard here. So this is the Bastillodon with the Solar Engine. So you can see it's getting some good shots at Durthu, which is a tree. He's weak to fire. And yeah, this thing does do fire damage. And in the back, he does have a big old thick Slann, which is going to be the Slann Mage Priest of Life. And this guy has Earthblood as well as, looks like that's it. So going very narrow there. Now in the front line, some light engagements going on. It's a little bit of poking here.
Yeah, we can already see some good poking. I mean, just to kind of extrapolate what you're talking about with those Chameleon Skinks, if you don't really keep a good rein on them, they can get around and do some good damage to those Glade Guard. They're quite good in combat when it comes to those low-tiered missile units. They're not going to fare well against anything that is a dedicated combatant, but they're really good at, they've got a 46 speed. They can get around the table quite quickly. We can already see some good Glade Guard shots going downrange, focusing mainly on that caster, but look at this big charge coming in from these cold ones.
Not the best charge. The cold ones are, Feral Cold ones are a bit of a, they're just a very cheap kind of cav unit in a way, but it looks like he's using Cold One Riders to kind of lance down some of the Dryads, trying to keep them from getting into the back line and jumping on the Skinks. But for the most part, a roadblock has been established in the front line. The skirmishing from the dinosaurs here.
Shield the old one's dropping off a good 22% damage resistance, as well as some good leadership. Curse of Anriel has been dropped down by the Wood Elves as well. It's going pretty crazy over here. We've got Shield of Thorns responding to that, giving some good physical resistance and weapon strength increase.
Some nice stacking debuffs for sure. And over here on the flanks, you can see it looks like some Wild Riders looking for an opportunity to get in here. I think they're trying to find a way to kind of weave past these Skinks and maybe get into the back line. But the Lizards are doing quite well, and this is a very good play here by Chief. I love this. He summons a Manticore, and he's going to be going after the very squishy Spellsinger. If you look at the stats of the Spellsinger, it has 15 armor and relatively low melee defense at 34. So if the Manticore is microed effectively, it could potentially do some substantial damage. But here in the back, Optimus Pine is coming back here. He is on the hunt. He's going after that Skink Chief, but he's being poisoned. Every little dart you guys see is slowing his speed quite substantially.
Exactly. And on top of that, the poison's going to lower his weapon strength. It's going to make him an overall easier target. He now has those cold ones on him. Those cold ones are those just the cold one riders? Or?
So these are cold one spear riders, which do have the anti-large.
Anti-large, exactly.
And the Aura of Quetzal has gone down, which is an AoE buff from the Lizards, which is going to make it even tougher to push off these cold one spear riders. Really, really good. Amazing play here in the back by Chief. And in the meantime, Banishment going down to the front, which does some okay damage, but Soothsayer did pull back his Dryads to mitigate that. And I honestly think Chief is in a pretty good position here. Granted, Soothsayer's archers are now in position and are getting some decent focus fire on the Skink Priest here.
Yeah, I mean, he's just really kind of pulling it out when it comes to those that Skink Priest here. You can see the fire just shooting downrange from those Glade Guard. They do have that AP again, which is going to be nice against that heavily armored Stegodon of Doom. But at the same time, you see that Durthu's in a pretty precarious situation. Another Manticore summon coming down, which could go after the Spellsinger again with a lot of AP damage. You can go right for Durthu if it wants you to really help bring home that that leadership.
Bring home the bacon.
Bring home the bark.
In all honesty, though, as far as just a general assessment of the battle, I would say that Soothsayer is in a more dominant position, because if you look at Durthu, yes, he's taking a beating, but he is getting healed. This Manticore is temporary, so it's going to be fading off the battlefield. So for anyone who's new to the game, summon units have an expiration date. So they usually last between a minute to a minute and a half, maybe 3 minutes on like zombies and things like that. But Durthu's just kind of anchoring here, and the rest of the Lizard army, if you guys take a big arcing look here at the battlefield, they have some skirmishing here on the core, but the Wood Elf archers are all in great shape. They have a great firing concave.
And a good amount of
like, look at this.
left.
It's the perfect, like, kind of U-shaped concave right here, which is actually really efficient. You can fire at a multitude of targets, really focus in on the center pocket. And yeah, for the most part, these archers doing an amazing job. And Big Papa Durthu's just getting in there with that sword and just giving the business to this skink. Oh my God, he's been forced back, and that Manticore is just doing nothing.
And he's
against
chasing
Durthu's
him down.
here.
He's bringing that sword home. I mean, we already see the Skink Priest kind of falling off.
That's
he's
a big
running away
pick.
from the Manticore. There's no reason to engage in that. He can see that it's probably going to fall away soon. The Glade Guard, like you were saying, is now focusing down the big heavy target of Papa Slan there. You can see he's looking to get some more Earthblood down on himself
It's not
to
gonna save him,
mitigate
though.
that damage. But look at it. He's just taking facefuls of Glade.
Yeah, that
Glade
Toad's
Guard
getting
shafts.
cooked, man.
Oh, man.
The Toad's getting roasted here, and a lot of archers coming in, and pretty much the Wood Elves are fully just routing off these lizards here. The Bastillodon's getting chased off. We do have the Skink Priest coming back, but basically he's exhausted his resources. Manticore summons are gone. The other Manticore will be dissipating here in about 15 seconds.
Right.
And the Toad has no way of just fighting off all these guys. He's a big fella, but certainly not up to the
He's not
task.
gonna hover away from this
Yeah,
one.
Durthu will eventually catch him, I think. Well, 35 speed, and how fast is the Toad? 34. So, yeah, Durthu could definitely catch him. But in this game, I mean, it's not 100% over, but it's looking very grim bones here. The Lizards, probably the only way they could come back is if they're able to kind of pull some skirmishing. But even still, the Wood Elves have mobility. They have Durthu. They have everything.
range, too, on top of it when it comes to the Glade Guard.
They got all the goodies.
Kind of reinforcing a point you were making earlier. I mean, Loxodon Soothsayer was able to get his Eternal Guard onto the Bastillodon with Solar Engine.
Oof, look at
he
that
was able
focus
to get a lot of damage onto the units that meant the most and able to mitigate, say, the Cold One Riders and such, while Durthu was sitting there tanking through so much damage, getting a lot of Earthbloods on him.
Oh, no,
down goes the Skink
It's like
Priest.
Jurassic Park, yeah, down goes the guy there.
Chris Pratt would be so upset right now.
He would be. Well, he only really cares about the Velociraptors.
That's true, but the Feral Cold Ones are dead too, you know?
Yeah, they are. Fair play. But that's pretty much game there. It looks like Soothsayer is going to be just cleaning up from here on out. There is some light skirmishing left for the dinos here on the flanks. You can see there's some chameleons, but Dryads and Eternal Guard can tank them all day. They'd run out of ammo, they'd get hunted, and they would certainly be
55% missile resistance.
They would go extinct for sure. So that's going to be game one for the champ.
Yeah.
The returning champ.
He pulled a pretty good little initial engagement. It did look a little shaky at first, but I think he really knew what he was doing. He pulled away his Dryads from any big banishments. He got his Glade Guards fighting on the targets they really needed to hit.
Yeah.
And all of his Eternal Guard were, like I said, they engaged on really good units. Like they got into that Bastillodon with a Solar Engine.
There weren't any Saurus.
We didn't really focus on this at all, but look at those Wild Riders, man. 62 kills in those guys. I wasn't able to really watch them. And even the Sisters of the Thorn.
They were hammering the flanks pretty well. Yeah.
Whew.
A lot of that, though, like if you look at the quality of Chief's army, and now, of course, there are some.
Of course,
yeah, it's mostly skinks and things like that in the front line. So there were no Saurus. Now, Saurus are very good against Eternal Guard. They perform well against Dryads. But again, Chief wanted to win with other assets, mainly his Chameleons. And Chameleons are very good against like Waywatcher and Missile Play because they can take the missiles. They have 40% resist, and they can kind of counter skirmish very effectively.
Right.
But Tlaxlan Soothsayer brought Big Papa Durthu, which you don't see terribly often. On top of that, he didn't go all in on Waywatcher. So he was able to get a little bit more width and kind of mass here with his firing core and wasn't as invested in like one big threat there with the Waywatchers, which I thought was great. And Dryads are good against infantry.
Yeah.
And Durthu also handles monsters. He had anti-monster here. It was a well-rounded, just well-thought-out build, I think.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I really enjoyed this one. And what
It's good and tasty.
It was good and tasty indeed.
Yeah.
He definitely made it as a rich man, but not as a broke man stealing.
Yeah, that was great.
Now, when you take a look at those Glade Guards, you were talking about the Waywatcher play and how it did allow him to go wider. Typically, when you're playing against Lizardmen as the Wood Elves, would you want to go wider, or is narrower kind of like the better focus? What's your opinion on that?
What's cool about Lizardmen is there's a multitude of ways to do it. Like, you can go super wide. I mean, I've seen people come in with, like, you can even go all in on, like, a melee rush build using a bunch of Saurus and a bunch of heavy cav. And personally, against Wood Elves, I myself like to use, like, Saurus and, like, a bunch of cav units to just kind of what's one of the weaknesses of Wild Riders in general is they don't have a lot of armor themselves, and secondly, they lack armor-piercing value. So
and
Dinosaur...
Third, no shirts.
Yeah, well, I think they do, though. If you look at it, yeah, they got, like, a kind of a tank
like a
top
little
on or
leaf
something.
little thing on?
Yeah, some business going on there. But nonetheless, the Lizardmen Heavy Cav are pretty good against Wild Riders, so you could potentially overwhelm the flanks, get into the archers. But yeah, I mean, Tlaxlan's build was really good. Chief's build was quite good as well, if you look at it. I mean, the Slan Mage of Life, that's one thing I'm a little bit on the fence about because there's not, I mean, yeah, you have the Skink Priest, plus you do also have the Solar Engine, but there's not a lot of, like, big, important, like,
Things
alpha strikes you want to heal
and
keep alive. I mean, yeah, of course, but I mean, I guess maybe against Wood Elf Focus Fire because, like, for example, if you don't bring healing and you get like 4 Way Watchers gooning out your Lord and he's like on death's bed, you're going to be super happy you brought that. But yeah, I don't know. He did have a dual caster system as well. He had the Beast Caster with the Manticore, so I mean, arguably he had his bases covered. Right. But really, it just came down to his front line melting and then not having enough sustainability to kind of push through and get onto the archers because his only mobile pressure was one group of Spear Riders plus some clever girls here. And they just weren't able to really get in there and do the trick. So
right. And I mean, with this most recent DLC, we did get access to the Slan of Life. That was one of the ones that was added. So
is he colored green or is he like yellow or something? Is he still like banana colored?
I think the banana Slan is a different one, isn't that?
I think it got a little bit confused.
Yeah.
I'm
okay.
not sure.
All right. We'll ask Lore Master of Sotek later, and he'll confirm it for us. As I hear him back around going, what? But we're moving on to our second match, and he just said it's green. It's going to be Loxlon Soothsayer on Skaven versus Chief.
Yes.
Using not just the High Elves, but namely Averlorn. So that means we're probably going to see a little dual action. Averlorn is a faction that allows you to have High Elves and some of the tree spirits of the Wood Elves that we saw in the previous match. Dryads, Treemen, Ancient Treemen as well, or no, Treekin and Ancient
and the Treeman. Yeah, and Avalorn is a good niche pick against Skaven because Skaven, if you look at a lot of their, quote-unquote high-tier infantry, and I say that with quotations because most Skaven infantry are pretty haggard for the most part, right? But if you actually have Dryads do magic damage, and a lot of Skaven troops, like Plague Monks, like Censer Bearers, things like that, have a good physical resist. It's one of their innate stats. So coming in with magic damage troops that have high DPS against light armor is like a dream come true against Skaven because the only highly armored Skaven troops are Storm Vermin, and they're really just not that great.
And they cause fear, the Dryads.
Yeah, the Dryads do cause fear as well, which is very good against low leadership of Skaven. But I think that Loxlon Soothsayer might bring like the Council Guard or a couple groups of Storm Vermin maybe to anchor his formation because, Avalorn rushes can be quite nasty with like Dryads and Dragon Princes and all sorts of Silver Helms coming in. And then Archers are very good against Skaven as well because Rat Ogres, Hellpit Abominations, just
Archers,
tons of...
Sisters of Avalorn, you have so many options.
Well, Skaven have a ton of big, lightly armored targets, which is just so juicy for Lothar and Seaguard, who are good at them at range and also do have spears themselves, so they can fight them in melee, which is very powerful.
Charge defense versus large when it comes to those large creatures just pounding down at them.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, I think Dryads could be a thing. I don't think we'll see Treekin. Treekin are a bit of a juicy target for Skaven gun lines, but yeah, I mean, Soothsayer is such a dynamic player. He can play almost every faction well. Whereas if I were to say, see Aerocrasic playing Skaven right now, I would pretty much kind of have an idea. But I really am not sure how Sooth is going to approach this. His builds are, unorthodox but very, very good.
Yeah, we saw Durthu, and that's kind of been a little bit of an unorthodox pick nowadays. He has his very niche kind of selections, but he used them to great advantage in that last one. And so hopefully we'll see a little bit of a left field play because I think that's one of Loxlon Soothsayer's bigger strengths, that he does know the game so well, and he does know that, I'm going to take this kind of a wild card pick. I'm going to cut the brakes on this one and really see how it pans out for me. And usually it pans out pretty well because, again, he has that good command of what his army's doing. Yeah. And we saw that working pretty expertly. Usually you see Durthu taking his item that reduces...
The Sword of Daith.
Yeah, Sword of Daith reduces melee attack and armor, or is it armor and melee defense?
Armor. Yeah, I don't know if it has anything to do with melee defense. I think it's just armor and does like a little bit of radius damage. But yeah, Durthu was a great pick. Like he's really solid because if you look at Lizard's ranged capabilities, I mean, what do they really have? They have Skinks. They have the Solar Engine, which though it does fire damage, it has very low armor piercing values. And Durthu's rocking just a tree hard 110 armor. So it's like not going to be a huge issue for him. And they also have the Ballista. And maybe Salamanders could have done work or Razordons, but even still, I don't think you're going to want to bring Salamanders or Razordon hunting packs against the against Wood Elves because Wild Riders and Sisters of Thorn can just chase them down pretty easily. Yeah. And you don't want to have to invest resources into protecting them. Then it becomes like just multi-layering of issues and overinvestment. So Durthu, a great pick. Like he's solid. I mean, a lot of people, like you said, use the dragon. The Helm of Discord dragon on the male Glade Lord is very powerful, but Durthu, he's got a presence, and he causes terror too, which is really nice.
And for those of you who don't know, Helm of Discord reduces both melee attack and melee defense, correct?
Yeah, by I believe 24, 25, 26. It's somewhere in that range for sure.
And melee attack and melee defense for, again, if you're just joining the game, melee attack is the likelihood in which you will hit something, and melee defense is the likelihood in which you will be hit. So popping the Helm of Discord, any units in that radius, they're going to not hit as often and be hit more often. So that's kind of the nice little caveat of the, or I guess the boon of the Helm of Discord.
Yeah, it's really good.
Our next map here is going to be the Iron Sand Desert. This is a good one. This is a fun one. I really like this map. It's big, it's open, it's small too. You're going to get to the conflict right quick and easy. There's not a lot of trees in the way. It's got a little bit of a rolling hillage, but not much.
Yeah, there's some light very light line of
very,
sight.
very light.
But again, both of these factions are missile factions, or they can be. I mean, Skaven can play a multitude of ways. You can go with like Doom Wheels and Flayers and Rat Ogres, and Skaven rushes really aren't bad, actually, and that could be something that could catch Chief off guard. Like, Chief might come in, let's say, for example, being like, okay, I'm going to be dealing with a Skaven gun line and monsters, let's go spears and bows. Right, which, again, are going to be a great answer there. But then if Soothsayer comes in with, like, Flayers and Doom Wheels and just Limp Bizkit rolling through all those guys, it's going to be tough.
Man.
I know, you haven't heard that in a while,
Oh,
right?
I didn't expect that one.
Yeah, nobody expects Fred Durst and
dude,
company.
He comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. But nonetheless, I mean, there's so many mind games, but I think a well-balanced build, of course, especially when you're down a game, is going to be good. So I think, like, for example, for Chief, you bring spears, you bring bows, you maybe bring like 1 or 2 nobles on horseback for your anti-large capabilities, bring Techless to isolate those filthy rats and hunt them down.
Yep.
You're going to be getting, pretty
like,
good value for
like
sure.
you articulated, being one up allows you to have a little bit more freedom.
Yeah, he can Sooth can mess around a little bit, or experiment, or try and do something so wild and unorthodox that may not be good, but it might catch your opponent off guard.
Exactly.
So.
He can play not as tight, whereas Chief is going to have to choose like a tried and true type of build to come against Loxlon Soothsayer. And I know that James is very adamant about this too. I see him nodding in the background. So let's get into this match here. The Loxlon Soothsayer as the Skaven versus Chief as Averlorn. Do you want to talk about the rats, and I'll talk about my favorite people?
Yeah. Well, I mean, kind of like half you like the pure elves, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, yeah.
Your favorite, like Tyrion and company. So yeah, for the Skaven, we do have a Grey Seer with the lore of Plague here. So the Grey Seer is a very, very popular pick. I've been seeing high-level players like Aerocrasic and all these fine gentlemen using this thing. Whereas for the longest time, Skrulk was one of the more popular picks because he comes with just some insanely powerful items. So in this case, though, it's going to be a Grey Seer. He does have the Unholy Clamor, I think is what it's called. Oh, look at the rat on the bell. Let's take a moment to admire that glorious.
That Rat Ogre is just so yoked.
Yeah, he's pretty jacked for
on
sure.
various types of Warpstone steroids.
And here we have the Unholy Clamor. So this is a really nice ability. It gives your entire army leadership, and of course leadership is a huge issue for Skaven. So being able to give them leadership plus vigor is super valuable. So your rats will not only fight longer, but they also won't be as tired, which again is kind of a variable that a lot of people overlook. So for anyone who's new to the game, if you look at the Skaven slaves or anything I'm mousing over right now, you'll notice it's confident. That's their leadership, and the variable below is, it says fresh, is their vigor. So as they fight longer and longer, they get tired, and there's a hidden penalties. You won't see it on their stat card, but it does affect them in a multitude of ways. So we have Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, Clan Rats. This is just classic Skaven, just trash infantry, just throwing Skaven slaves and just chaff, and just into the sunset, just letting them tar pit your opponent, whereas your guns and your machinations and machines are going to do the heavy lifting. So Warplock Jezzails back here are Skaven snipers, which are quite good. 275 range, will outrange the high elf bows. Very good against dragons and phoenixes and all sorts of single entities like that. So it looks like he does have Warplock Jezzails. He also has a Warlock Engineer, and this is a great thing as well. So he has mixed magic. He does also have the Plaguecaster, who's going to be summoning rats, but this ability is so good against high elves. Howling Warp Gale. You cast this and it basically locks their flying unit in place, and when they're locked in place, they can't dodge your missiles. They just get taken out by your snipers and other tools like that. In the back for some Mask, because if you don't bring Mass as Skaven, you're going to have a really bad time. He has Doom Wheels. So Doom Wheels are a terror-causing, I wouldn't say monster, but kind of a contraption of sorts. Bonus versus infantry, armor piercing, magic damage, very good against infantry. He also has the Dwarf Thing Menace. No dwarves here for these guys to mow down, but nonetheless, anti-infantry, and yeah, it's a well-rounded army. I mean,
yeah, I agree. I mean, it's got multiple layers. It's going to have, like you said, a lot of chaff for them to get absorbed from the archer shots from the High Elves. Let's take a look at that High Elf army, which I am stoked to take a look at.
Like we talked about, Dryads.
Yep, and they're going to, like you said, they've got the magic damage, they're immune to psychology, they're going to be able to fear things. Now, we're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units of those Dryads down the front line. Now, they're staggered across some units of Spearmen as well. Spearmen are, of course, the very bottom tier unit for infantry for the High Elves, but they're going to be very good in this situation. They're going to have decent armor against all the Skaven slaves. They're going to trade well against the, you're fine, against the Skaven clan rats. And on top of it, all these units, the High Elf's trade skill, I guess, or racial ability is Martial Prowess and Mastery. Martial Prowess is going to increase their melee attack, but mainly their melee defense, while they're above 50% health. Now, we're seeing these two armies collide here. You're getting a nice back line of some archer play. In the very back, we're seeing some Silver Helms.
Because Dragon Princes are very expensive.
Agreed.
And like bringing a high-value asset that the Skaven can focus down isn't always the best. And as you can see, Chief went super wide.
Right.
Another reason why the Spears are in the front ahead of the Dryads is just to deal with Skaven skirmishing, because a lot of Skaven players will bring like 3 or 4 Gutter Runners in this matchup and, kind of just poke the Dryads and things like that. So it can be scary.
Yeah, and we also see that the leadership is going to be Alariel the Radiant here. She's going to have Arcane Unforging Forging, which is going to be an ability very similar to Spirit Leech in that she'll be able to focus an individual lord or hero and be able to do a lot of damage to them over time. And I believe it also helps out with the ability to be charged by 15 seconds,
so essentially if you cast Arcane and Forging on a caster, it adds to the cooldown in which they can cast spells.
Exactly.
Another really nice pick back here from the High Elves is the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, which is going to be like dedicated long-term damage against the Grey Seer. It's an anti-large, basically, ballista.
And it can switch to anti-infantry if you so wish it, but majority of the time it's used to focus down large targets.
Here comes the first charge coming over here. The Silverhelm's getting a fat, juicy charge
man,
into the
going
Skaven
right
Slaves.
into it, using
just
that
classic
sweet
Skaven.
anti-infantry on them, just trying to cut down those clan rats. You can see Alarielle is just kind of floating over the battlefield. She does have Earthblood, so she can fly to any point in the gap that needs a lot of healing. She can drop that, retreat, even help do a little bit of damage to an isolated hero and or Lord unit. But we can also see,
so that's going to be a Skaven Scorch effect going down from the Grey Seer, which does huge damage to just roast those Spearmen. Also on top of that, we do have the Doom Wheels coming in the back line. Now, Doom Wheels, you know, something with mass like Silverhelms can pin them down, but again, like, that's one issue I think for this High Elf army is they don't have a lot of like hard-hitting nobles or phoenixes, and these Doom Wheels are just going to just roll right through these Dryads, just doing a ton of work. You can also see here, Ryan's
oh my god, that got me too much there. I did not expect you to drop another Limp Bizkit play.
Oh, dude, there's going to be many more.
Dude, the Dwarf Flayers, too, are ripping through stuff. You also have the
that's the big issue.
Ooh, I hear a little Warp Lightning dropping.
Yes, it's going to be doing some good damage. Honestly, though, if I had to make a very early prediction, I think that Soothsayer's army, based on the composition, has a massive advantage. There's not really a lot of mass here. And Chief, like we kind of talked about in the beginning, in the pregame, he built very much around dealing with gun lines and artillery and rat ogres and hell pits, but all these flayers are just running through these Dryads.
And
look at this, the proud Grey Seer just swinging on his bell, cackling mightily.
You know what he's saying?
So much work.
It's my way or the highway. Yeah. And he's just
great.
taking those. Yeah, I did it just for you. He's taking those Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower shots right into the flank here, but he's just kind of mowing through stuff, getting into more engagements. You can see that center pocket right there is just being completely bulldozed by more archer fire, but that right flank is being hit so hard. A nice Warp Lightning dropping onto those Silver Helms, and look at this, and that backline right onto that Bolt Thrower.
Yeah, the Skaven Slaves are going to be able to shut it down. And talk about value. Skaven Slaves cost 125 gold, and they're shutting down an 800 gold piece, which is great. And, you know, Silver Helms are the only thing he really has, aside from the Pigeon Queen up here, to deal with his Doom Wheel. And they have terrible AP values. Their combat stats aren't that great. They're not going to be able to finish off the Doom Wheel. And honestly, the Doom Wheel will probably tear out these guys. And despite the battle being somewhat close at this point, the balance of power showing that, if you just look at the overall status of the battlefield, like the Grey Seer is somewhat healthy. The one thing that can kill the Grey Seer as well as the Doom Wheels is pretty much offline.
Right.
And the Skaven have both their Doom Wheels. The Grey Seer is in good shape. The Dwarf Thing Menace is just rolling around cackling. And I just don't see what the High Elves can really do here.
Yeah, I mean, the Dryads have been spending a lot of time beating down Skaven Slaves in that backfield over there, and they've really not been able to come over here and help out with the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. I mean, yeah, sure, the Eagle Claw was able to kind of limp its way out of this fight, but like you were saying, man, the Doom Wheel and the Dwarf Thing Slayers, they have so much armor, and there's not enough AP to really threaten them. So they're going to be able, look at that, just right through all of those archers, just bulldozing through them.
Those archers are definitely in a pretty bad way here. But there are a ton of High Elf troops coming back. It looks like Chief might have made the mistake of over-chasing, so had his Dryads like chasing like scraps out of the wings, whereas the main fighting's over here. So there still is a chance for Chief. I mean, the Dryads through attrition could wear down big targets, but again, their AP is quite low. And even if you look at the tooltip of Dryads, it specifically says weak against armor, because again, their AP values are very low. But they're great against all the chaff, so maybe, just maybe, if the Dryads and the other High Elf troops can clear out all the Skaven just kind of trash infantry and things like that, and get a really grindy just kind of play of attrition against these bigger targets. You can also see in the back we do have archers coming back online, and archers, though they lack AP, it is a volume of fire.
Absolutely, absolutely. They're trying to kind of set up a secondary line back there as everything kind of gets overrun and pushes back, but you can see a lot of those slaves are going all over the place. Some are kind of breaking around the mighty Alarielle. Dwarf Thing Menace is being run off by the Great Eagle itself. And we can see that those two Doom Wheels are they're hungering for some elves.
And they're both in really good shape. And
they're looking hot and heavy.
It's going to be tough. You can see here that Chief is trying to get back his Bolt Thrower, which is a very good plan. If he can get this back online and get some good anti-large firepower into these wheels. But
the Dwarf Thing Menace is going right back into him. Silverhelm's trying to block that out. Trying to screen into those mighty Doom Wheels, but look at their range fire's just been kicking off here. Alarielle jumping onto the Grey Seer,
That's a good
trying
target.
to capture the and a nice Scorch coming down onto those Spearmen.
But yeah, this is good targeting here. Chief, knowing that he has some big threats that he can't really deal with, just go for the low-hanging fruit here. So
the leadership's a big thing.
Yeah, Skaven leadership is quite bad. So if you're able to take out the leadership, the clan rats, Skaven slaves will flee and go back to the rat's nests here. But nonetheless, getting this guy low plus an Arcane Unforging could probably finish off this Grey Seer. But look at that, the Doom Wheels just terror routing, just running through these guys. The Archer line in the back is being pushed, and there's really not much left aside from a couple loose Spearmen, which Spearmen will do pretty much nothing against Doom Wheel. Because even though they're anti-large, you know, and they have charge defense, if you just keep like ramrodding them, running back and forth, it's going to be Grimbones for sure.
Yeah. And there's just so much armor too on those things, man. It's too much of an uphill battle for them.
So Howling Warpgale going down, which does freeze Alarielle in place here.
Yeah, does lock her down. It does do a little bit of damage as well. Oh no, that's sorry. I'm thinking of Tempest.
Yeah.
Howling Warpgale does lock her down. She's on the floor, so she kind of has to deal with whatever comes her way. Little Dryad support coming in over there. She is surrounded by Skaven slaves. They fortunately enough for her don't have spears, so they can't do any additional anti-large damage to her. But this does free up the Grey Seer, who can now get out of this sticky situation. He has Arcane.
He has been Arcane Unforged.
Unforged arcanely.
So yeah, again, this is going to add 30 seconds to his spells, which isn't really a big deal because he's been using his summons. I believe he just used one anyways, but it does pretty good damage. He's down to 800 HP, give or take, and his leadership is, you know, stabilizing. It's not terrible, but yeah, it's tricky. I mean, Alarielle could finish him off, but even still, dealing with the double Doom Wheel is just
so...
It's so nasty.
Irate.
He needs to get some archers online somehow to start poking here, but you can see here Talaxon Soothsayer just so savvy. He realizes what can threaten his army, and he's just hunting these guys down. But the Pigeon Queen's coming in. She's got that steel chair coming on down to beat down this Grey Seer. Is she going to get him? No, it looks like she's pulling back. Oh no!
Another, I thought that Howling Warpgale got her.
So the Howling Warpgale just barely missed.
Just missed.
Soothsayer just barely missed that, which is really unfortunate. It might actually cost him his Grey Seer and then give the High Elves a way back into this game.
Yeah, that's going to give him a little bit of a boost there. Dropping that leadership for the Skaven is pretty huge. I mean, even look at the Rat Ogres here. Even though they're next to their leader, they were still kind of low in their leadership.
Wavering,
they're very tired. All of what's it called? Vigor across the entire army is pretty beat on both sides here.
Yeah,
so really, it's a lot of forces picking back and forth. You can see the Dryads trying to jump into the Warlock on the right side over there, and Alarielle swooping down again onto the Grey Seer, 610 health.
He's juking really well, though. So basically what Soothsayer's doing is he's just like kind of drifting in circles and trying to pull Alarielle into these high mass units. Yep, Rat Summon's nice, but Dryads are coming. I mean, a lot of assets for the High Elves are coming back in here, but man, double Doom Wheel, that's going to be so hard to deal with.
That's really going to be...
Even though the balance is even, what can kill the Doom Wheel aside from Alarielle?
I mean, honestly, it's going to have to rely on leadership at that.
Look at this Grey Seer. He's just been like just drifting in circles, just
they're
not taking
racing
any
for
damage.
pinks, and honestly, they're coming for... Alarielle didn't narc on nobody, but the Grey Seer is going to get caught up, I think.
Yeah, he got hit there. So down to 446 HP, but he's doing a good job. I mean, at the very least, this thing is buying time for the other assets in the Skaven army to do the heavy lifting. And the Skaven summons will give a little bit of sustainability to this fight, which the Dryads were doing quite well in, but yeah, even still, look at the wheels coming in. Nice brace from Chief. So something for people who are learning the game. If you saw the High Elves standing still there, charge defense against large foes only works if the unit is standing still and facing in the proper direction. So if you're like facing the wrong way and you get charged in the back, you're not going to get your charge defense. You have to be facing them, you have to be standing still. So a really good way to make sure is you face your unit against them and you hit the halt button, and then that's going to make sure you get your charge defense.
And halt could be pressed from backspace, and just to further kind of reinforce that point, charge defense is the ability to negate the charge bonus value you see at the very bottom when you take a look at any one of these units. That charge bonus gets added into their weapon strength.
Yeah, it's a multitude of their combat stats. And here you can see Alarielle's going to be coming in. Is she going to get the killing blow here on the Grey Seer? Maybe.
Just flutters in and flutters out.
This guy, he's like, oh man, just getting away.
He's got the mad jukes.
He's got the thankful plot armor.
Dude, he
just like surviving.
Does. He does. 286 health.
He's like, you're gonna almost defeat me every time, but I will escape
to my
tunnels.
But then I'll escape.
Yeah. So
and
he's
I'll
doing
come
his
back in a whole
different
iteration.
So Alarielle is pinned down by Howling Warpgale, and now she's going to be just getting run over by these Doom Wheels. So only in Warhammer do you see a hamster and a wheel just running over a lady on a pigeon.
Yeah,
quite crazy.
I mean, it's beautiful in its own way, you know. I mean, tons of AP damage coming out.
Yeah. Not that you need AP against Alarielle, she only has 30 armor, but nonetheless, she's going to get an Earthblood, but there's absolutely no way she could deal with the double Doom Wheel. And if we look at the map and do a big kind of topical look over, okay, there are some Dryads who've run into the sunset here, not sure.
What High Elves?
They're on vacation here, but you can see there are some Spearmen coming back, but I mean, maybe if Alarielle had these Dryads, but yeah, they're just
little scorch coming down on those Spearmen right there.
Nice little pokeroo
right
there.
Little hitty.
but Chief is going to withdraw. At that point, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
And Soothsayer, the returning champion, is going to be advancing on to the semifinals.
All the way in. He's going to the next round there, and it's going to be a pretty interesting one because our fight after this, which we'll go into a little bit.
That was a close fight.
I know. Could make for a very interesting semifinals. But let's take a look at this post-battle report here. There was a lot of action going on, right? You had two very broad armies.
Yeah.
You had wide armies, I'm sorry. Loxon Soothsayer brought a lot of really great units here, right? He brought the Rat Ogres to really kind of help shore up any of the defenses. He brought a lot of Doom Wheels. He had the Doom Flayers. So he had a lot of stuff going on. Now, for the High Elves, very wide. You had a lot of archers. I'm not so sure about the Dryad pick. Help me out with that. Did you think that was the best one?
Let's just break it down. So if you take a look, break it down. If you take a look at the Skaven army, whenever you're building a competitive list or you're in a heated game, you need to look at your army and check a couple boxes. So look at the Skaven army. You know they're High Elves, right? So okay, can the Skaven army deal with mass infantry? Can it deal with Dryads, Spearmen, and Archers? Yes, it can because it has Doom Wheels and Flayers. Is it going to be able to deal with Dragon Princes? Yes, it can, because again, it has Rat Ogres to kind of pin them down with mass, and it does also have Jezzails. It has, it has summons with, Grey Seer to kind of pin those guys down as well. So basically, it checks all its boxes. Can it deal with Phoenixes? Yes, it can. Can it deal with Dragons? Yeah, it can pin them down with Howling Warp Gale, and it can shoot them with Jezzails. It checked all its boxes. Now, if you look over at Chief's army, it checked one major box in a huge way. It's like, I'm going to dump all over a Skaven defensive gun line. I have the infantry blitz, but it didn't check the box of dealing with Flayers and Doom Wheels. It had absolutely no answers aside from the one ballista piece, which, look at it this way. 800 gold against probably 4,000 or 5,000 gold worth of something it needs to defeat, which is going to be tricky. So I think the build was good. Chief's build was quite solid against certain styles of Skaven play, but it wasn't well-rounded enough to deal with, one of the big threats from Skaven, which is Doom Wheels and Flayers and things like that. And to remedy that, so for anyone wondering, how would you beat this build? You would come in, you would mix in a couple Nobles, get some Flamespire Phoenixes. The Flamespire Phoenix is really durable. It can heal itself. It has good AP. It can hunt down Doom Wheels and annihilate them. And so, honestly, probably just cut 2 Dryads, cut 1 Spearman and 1 Silverhelm, get a Phoenix, get a Noble, voila. You're butter. You're going to be able to deal with most Skaven builds.
Tons of anti-large and AP coming out from that Noble. Put it on a horse, have it just run things down.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, man. So now we're going to be
jumping over to another match here. So we're going to be jumping over to our final initial round here for the day.
It's going to be good, man.
King of the Dead versus Falcon.
These guys have a pretty solid little rivalry.
I think so too, yes.
Rivalry. It's a tricky word to say for me.
Rivalry.
Yeah, it's a hard one to say fast.
Revivification Crystal.
Revivification Crystal.
Revivification Crystal.
Revivification Crystal.
Nailed it.
Yeah, Revivification Crystal. There's some days where I can say it, and there's others where I can't.
Oh, dude, my most recent one has been Penumbral.
Penumbral Pendulum?
Yeah, but for a reason I want to say Pendulum.
Yeah, Pendulum.
Penumbral Pendulum.
There's a lot of tongue twisters in these fantasy games for sure.
Yeah, alliterations aplenty, consonants all over the place. I can't deal with it.
So, yeah, it's going to be Falcon, of course, who in the last EVERCHOSEN was really close to beating Talaxon Soothsayer. It went to Game 5 in the finals, but he brought a very strange mass werewolf build, which it was certainly very awesome, but it was very risky, and he ended up dropping the 5th game. But yeah, Falcon is certainly a contender. He's an extremely good player, and as is King of the Dead, they play each other all the time. I can't tell you how many times on my channel they've run into each other in tournaments. King, of course, an undead specialist, and he's going to be coming in with dire wolves, scurvy dogs, just freaking bats, any sort of annoying, nagging creatures he can send at you. They're going to be coming in.
And these two, they're so active. They're playing all the time. They're practicing against each other, against other people, playing in tournaments against each other, or again in their own tournaments. I mean, Falcon has said to me personally, he's like, my dream is
break you.
I must break you. He's charging up that icy slope, full Rocky style. But he was saying it's my dream to win the EVERCHOSEN.
He's more the Drago though.
Yeah, I mean, come on. He's got that.
He's
like
the Terminator.
He's got the descent, dude. Just that dead stare, too. If he dies,
well, I don't know if he has a
he dies. And so this is going to be a very interesting match, right? King of the Dead, also very passionate about the EVERCHOSEN and wanting to win that title.
Yeah, he got 3rd place last time and had a huge upset over a previous champion in Aerocrasic. He actually won that series 3-0 in the finals, which was nobody was expecting.
No one saw that coming.
Yeah, so he's certainly on point, and I'm pretty sure he's been practicing the past couple weeks. So yeah, we're going to be jumping into River Amixon. So River Amixon is a lizardman map. There's 2 kind of a symmetrical forest areas, so tons of options to hide your army. So against Vampire Coast, which King of the Dead is going to be playing, lizardmen have options to hide in the trees and kind of ambush. You start relatively close together, so I think that, King loves, weird builds. He comes in with, bombers, which are a super rare kind of, in my opinion, bad unit, but he makes them work.
Yeah.
He uses Morngulls. He uses animated Hulks, units that you rarely see against, lizardmen, for example. So I think that my prediction is that King is going to bring, a blitz melee build with, maybe even bringing, an Necrofex Colossus or something.
And it'll be interesting because usually when we take a look at
Okay, no worries.
Oh, cool. Great. Just a quick note from our people off the screen.
They're just saying hello.
Yeah. Falcon, again, as we talked about previously, he takes very aggressive
father of
builds as
dragons.
well. Yeah, the father of dragons. That's his favorite thing, are dragons.
Yeah.
But he takes a lot of cavalry, and when since he's playing the Lizardmen, we might expect a lot of Cold Ones, a lot of Cold One Spirit Riders. We might expect even some Horned
Yeah,
ones.
perhaps so.
He does a lot of things that combo with that. But I think for this specific style of army, he might go something a little bit different.
Yeah, against Vampire Coast, it's a little bit tricky because they have really cheap, cost-effective halberds.
Absolutely.
And they have good AP values, good melee defense. So going with like a super heavy cav build against Vampire Coast isn't always the best. Rather, I think you might actually see a lot of skinks. Like I think Chameleon skinks are really good because they can take down Morgulls, they can take down a lot of the big threats. But you also have to respect the crabs. So perhaps we're going to be
you always respect the
crab
god
here.
Dude.
Do we have the costume here in studio? Is it like,
can we find the costume?
It's probably in the drawer somewhere over there.
Someone talk to James. You know, I'm Dogberg. Find the costume.
I know. Maybe tomorrow we'll bring it on or something. But yeah, that was quite a legendary moment. But nonetheless, yeah, I mean, King plays very, very strangely. A lot of Vampire account players or Coast players play with gun lines and use like some of those traditional elements, but he does not play that way. But again, these guys play each other nonstop, so I'm sure they're a little bit privy to some of the tricks they may bring.
Absolutely, there's going to be a little tricksy action back and forth, I'm sure.
It's actually an ability in this game, Trixie Traps.
Trixie Traps, precious.
That was so good, man. Oh, I was waiting. Oh no, and it's going to be the Dread Saurian. The beast is here.
Now he just got a 100-point cut, right? A 100-point cost reduction,
So he got an HP increase. So I believe he got 500 HP, which is awesome. Man. And on top of that, he got a cost reduction and a mass increase. So one of the big issues with the Dread Saurian on release was he got stuck on things. But yeah, we're just going to watch this guy the entire game.
Look at him.
So he got stuck on like infantry. He'd be like, I'm too weak.
I can't do it much longer.
I can't move past these infantry. Oh god, I'm so weak. But basically now he can push through things. He can get to those targets. And this isn't the Feral Dread Saurian. This is actually the regular one with the Howdahs on top.
Yeah. So these guys it used to be 1,800 points. Now they're only 1,700 or so.
No, not that much. It's only 100 less. So the Dread Saurians
right?
cost 3,200. And now they cost 3,100.
3,200 for the Dread Saurian?
Yeah. And
I'm thinking of the Feral Dread Saurian.
That one's 23, and now it's down to 22. If I'm
okay.
Yeah. So I guess I'll take the lizards. You want to talk about the vampires?
Please.
Like vampires and stuff. So for the army here, we do have a wild freaking Dread Saurian pick, which is absolutely insane because Vampire Coast is a powder faction. They have cannons, they have handguns. So bringing a big wild beast like this, a majestic beast of Lustria, is so risky because it can get focused down. But this is like a mind game pick. This is knowing your opponent, knowing that King of the Dead doesn't really like to play with traditional powder, so he might be able to surprise him with the Wild Dread Saurian pick. So for the rest of the line, it's going to be Saurus Warriors with shields. We have a couple spears mixed in. Saurus are great. They're shielded against powder. They beat down Vampire Coast infantry with the exception of Depth Guard, but they even do okay there. And yeah, they're just a solid infantry choice.
Yeah.
We got the cohort of Sotek, Unbreakable, Happy Little Skinks. We have a Aslan Mage Priest with high magic with the Apotheosis, Hand of the Gods, and Tempest to lock down, deck droppers.
Say that fast. Deck droppers.
It's really hard. We have a couple skinks as well, and that's pretty much it. So for Vampire Coast, what do we got here?
We got some initial scurvy dog.
No,
we got a little bloated corpse.
So,
now this little sneaky devil is going to try and get up in that front line and explode on something juicy.
Dude, I want to see this thing go head to head with the Dread Saurian.
So right now you kind of see it shambling, but as soon as it gets within its charge range, it's going to do its own little like head first charge to headbutt and explode onto something.
He's looking for those chicken tenders, man. He's coming for them chicken tenders.
He's going to run a train on those chicken tenders. So let's take a look at the rest of this backline. Oh, now this is a classic King of the Dead build. We've seen this before. It's a lot of frontline action where he's going to have a lot of pirates just absorbing some chaff, and then he's going to have he's going to have a lot of bombardiers.
But what is this guy?
Now he also has my own incarnation within the game. Creative Assembly made it itself. They had to change it to Rotting Leviathan for copyright reasons, but the Rotting Leviathan crab god is
I was waiting.
The Rotting Leviathan itself is here. Oh, the Dread Saurian's coming in, but it's already getting some shots on it.
This is a risky pick from Falcon.
Now, that is the ability from the Dread Fleet himself. What is it? Count Noctilus dropping down the Wraith Storm. Count Chocula. Dropping 1, 2, 3, 4 Count Chocula mushrooms upon him. That is the Wraith Storm. Doing some good damage initially and responding with the Shield of the Old Ones to mitigate some of that.
It's pretty good. And Falcon did have the forest to come through, so he was able to kind of run through the trees, make sure that a lot of the damage coming in would be mitigated. But a little bit of lag here. Hopefully they'll be able to kind of stabilize, but we'll see how it goes.
We'll take a look at the rest of the army here in the meantime. It looks like you have...
They're
good. Never mind. We're coming back into it.
But yeah, the Dread Saurian basically coming in here is it's a little bit risky. He's going to have to fall back to the trees. Basically, I think at this point he has to use the Dread Saurian as like a distraction Carnifex because believe it or not, King's army actually has many good tools. It has halberds, plus the crabs. The Lamprey's Revenge.
The Lamprey's are so good.
Yeah.
They're such a good range.
Regenerate, armor piercing. They can hold back the Dread Saurian. But
oh, look at those bombs across the front line.
The bombs will do pretty good. Saurs have 60 armor, but none. This is like the King of the Dead special. Using the bombers to Shrek the infantry, because Vampire Coast infantry really can't win those frontline engagements. So you can look at this as zombies just trying their best here. But
just getting clubbed in the face. And you know, the nice thing too is he does have a Carronade dead center in the middle of his army, and that's going to be able to get a lot of good shots onto the Slann Mage Priest, onto the Dread Saurian. So he can have some good shots here. But like you were saying earlier, there's a lot of cheap halberd infantry to back up and defend that back line. You can see that they're kind of being used there as the left side gets harried a little bit. The Scurvy Dog is being shut down on the right. And look at this. These 2 units of Skink cohorts are really going to have that back line open to them now.
They're really a great backline tool, and that's what's really cool about the Lizards in general. Skinks are, actually going to be able to probably contend, if not defeat, some of these, deckhands here in the back. They don't really have the best combat stats, so it's going to be a little bit tricky. But nonetheless, you can see the Dread Saurian here. Looks like he thought about picking a bone here with Count Noctiluss. But Count Noctiluss,
I do like that pun.
Yeah, Noctiluss has anti-large. He has armor piercing, so that's not really a good fight. But the Dread Saurian is actually enduring quite well, and looks like he's going to be going after Lamprey's Revenge. I mean, 700 plus weapon strength when he's not poisoned, certainly very good against the armor here of the crabs.
Absolutely. But look at this. Rotting Leviathan coming
the
in,
duel
just
of the
chittering.
Ages. Oh, man, this would be an
coming
epic
right
duel.
after him. Doesn't want to get thrown that pod to boil away from Count Noctiluss here, but he is getting hit with some poison that's going to slow him down, reduce his weapon strength. But, right into the side of that Dread Saurian. Seeing those Scurvy Dogs trying to help out in the back line here, but really that big fight is what's going down here. Dread Saurian's leadership, though, is tanking. It's well surrounded. It's got a lot of pressure on all sides here.
It's relatively low in terms of leadership, but again, it does have the Cold Blood available,
and
so if Lizards want to use Cold Blood, plus they want to use Shield the old ones right here to buff its leadership, it'll be fine. And also Apotheosis is available from High Magic, which is a really good healing spell. So the Dread Saurian can be healed, which is really nice. Like Lore of Life or Lore of High Magic is so good with the Dread Saurian.
Those bombs just going off.
Yeah.
Ooh, a banishment here.
It doesn't really get anything, though.
Yeah, kind of skirts a little close to the Rotting Leviathan, but doesn't really kind of do much. It is starting to come back towards the rest of the army.
Oh, look at that. The Carronade in the back was shut down also, so that takes pressure off the Dread Saurian. And the Dread Saurian, as powerful as you are, the mighty Crab God himself, you cannot stand up to the might of the Dread Saurian.
Dare you, but I do agree.
It's much stronger. And the Aura Pretzel here going down, giving it melee defense and armor, it's going to be able to win this trade for sure. It's my favorite.
Oh, man,
my
the
God.
Aura Pretzel.
And the Legion of Chaqua coming in. So for anyone who doesn't know what the Legion does, they have an activated ability that actually gives just a metric ton of missile resist.
44% or something like that,
So it basically helps to address one of the main weaknesses of the Dread Saurian. But as far as the game goes overall, if we take a look, it's a pretty even battle. We have the Dread Saurian. We have a pretty healthy core of Lizard infantry in the back. Oh, this is huge. The Skink cohort
going for that Carronade.
Yeah, this is big. If they're able to get the cannon crew, this is a huge late game boon, because if the game were to drag on, the Carronade could get back online. It could start shooting the Dread Saurian, but getting this pick is so good.
Oh, man. He went and just went in for the layup and dunked directly on them there, because the Carronade was just sitting there kind of idle. If that had been brought back online, it would have been a lot of really hard pressure on the Dread Saurian. The Rotting Leviathan, though, is trying to get some good good action. But
what kind of a sound do you think it's making now? Now that it's like going a little bit bad.
I don't know why it grows
like
at the end, like a
at
little
the
bit of human. Yeah,
that's
sweet relief. Take me now.
So yeah, back here in the main fight, you can see the Saurus Warriors or everyone in this radius is going to be getting the Shield of Chaqua. Granted, it doesn't really matter because there's no missiles coming in, but the Dread Saurian is just going full-on alpha, Apex Predator.
He is headbutting right into Noctiluss. Dude,
I love seeing this. Like, this is a competitive match. Like, in a competitive tournament, the Dread Saurian is actually doing okay.
Yeah.
It is such a risky pick against Vampire Coast, but it's working.
Yeah, it's working very well. You know, even though the Dread Saurian's here, I feel like Falcon was able to still go quite wide with his forces. Trying to get a summon up there, trying to help out anything with Noctiluss. Noctiluss is just getting buried.
I think he just
got
buried in his own zombies. He's weak binding right now, so he's pretty close to crumbling. So Noctiluss is going to be falling back behind his crab, which is smart. The balance of power is in Falcon's favor, but it's certainly not out of reach to the Vampire Coast yet. If he could like heal up Noctiluss, for example, and kind of re-anchor his position. And as a matter of fact, you can see the bounce is ebbing back towards the middle.
Absolutely, yeah, because take a look at Noctiluss. He just got a little good, he got some good health recovery from Invocation to Heck. And like we talked about with the balance of power, leadership, the health of your units, that all affects the balance of power. So as that increases across the way, so doth your balance of power. Some good bombs, chucking into those cohorts right there.
This is really nice. So King is actually kind of restructuring his battle lines. He's getting halberds in front of the bombers. Bombers are being used to kind of clear out the Saurus chaff. And it looks like the cohort of Sotek, all four of those noble skinks fighting to the bitter end. Oh, but look at this. Banishment is going to be going down here. This is going to be huge.
No. This is going to do so much damage.
This is going to roast. So Banishment just wrecking those guys. Let's take a look at how many kills this Toad has. 133.
That is so brutal.
Not bad.
That is so
now,
brutal.
this is a big opportunity right here for King of the Dead to get back in the game. If they can 2v1 this Toad, then the Dread Saurian might be a little bit outmatched here. The Bombers are clearing off the Saurus. This might be a comeback for King.
Indeed, that Noctilus does have AP and anti-large. He's got a massive halberd looking to just bring that crustacean home. Headbutting into the Dread Saurian, who sees his new target on back on me.
Dread Saurian right here.
Hand of Glory, Apotheosis, everything.
He needs to carry this game into the sunset right here.
We did get Aura of Quetzal just a little bit, so that cannot be used again so soon. So it's really going to be down to that melee attack from the Hand of Glory and that good little Apotheosis fading away as well.
A little bit of unintentional slow-mo, but, you know, it doesn't hurt, right?
I feel like it was great.
Let's just get some close-up
Bob,
here.
get her on in there. You know what? That's what I'm talking about. He's getting in that back line, bringing that quarterback down, and using that linebacker.
I think they recolored this Toad.
Yeah, seriously, look at him. Dude, I never looked at his head. Like that thing
it
was
kind of looks like a jellyfish.
Dude, it's undulating and everything. I wouldn't want that thing to touch me.
The big brain plays, man. Coming in here.
Kill.
But now you can see the Rotting Leviathan is just being dumpstered by the Dread Saurian. I mean,
and
he's just
look at Noctilus too.
He's like, Anakin,
Anakin,
it's too powerful. And the Dread Saurian, the terror, the apex predator of Lustria, coming in.
From my perspective, the Dread Saurian is evil.
He's winning the hearts of the people, man.
He did
like
indeed.
Coming in game 1 of his EVERCHOSEN showcase here and just like winning a match against a top-tier undead player with a Dread Saurian.
Yes.
I don't know what year it is, what planet we're on, but nonetheless.
I don't even know who you are anymore. I don't even know what we're doing. Is this even a real shirt?
Just
but
such a majestic beast.
Dude, it was such a ferocious fight.
Sotek's like clapping on the
couch. Dude, I can see
there.
him. He's dancing on the couch. It's ridiculous. Don't cut over to the couch.
Doing handstands.
You'll see too much nudity. But the big thing here is that both these players played so ferociously, right? They brought a lot of big, heavy, aggressive things.
Yeah.
Falcon, like I said, was able to go quite wide, even though he brought the Dread Saurian.
Yeah.
We talk about how the Dread Saurian and even the Shredder of Lustria locks up about a third or a fourth, depending on which one it is, of your army, and still Falcon was able to field.
Look at it.
So much. Look at it.
And if memory serves, this Dread Saurian did not have that chevron when the battle started.
Not a one.
So what's cool about that is as units earn chevrons in fighting, they actually get like improved combat stats like live during the battle.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
It kind of like they veteran up, but yeah, Falcon's army was super risky. Like had King brought like another carronade or another powder piece or something and deployed a little bit further away from the trees, that thing could have been shreked horribly, like sent back to the swamp.
Yeah.
However, in that case, you know, he was able to use the tree line, hide, fall back into the trees, get his skinks onto the cannon, and then he let the apex predator do what it does best and just take down, you know, it was like Godzilla hunting Mothra. Well, Mothra and Godzilla are like allies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the last movie there.
We're both like, yeah.
Yeah, like Mechagodzilla or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like one of those.
Got to fight the Hydra. The Hydra one. What's the Hydra one?
King
Ghidorah, right? Yeah.
It's King Ghidorah, isn't it?
Yeah, King Ghidorah. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like an unnatural thing from another planet or something.
With,
Yeah,
like,
like
Hydras and
people off
Batlings.
camera are like, yeah, it's King Ghidorah. They're like giving us thumbs up and
Yeah,
stuff.
so Tech's like, I'm related to the King Ghidorah. It's fine. He's part reptile.
But yeah, the High Mage was really good. Hand of Glory is like an underrated ability. So what it does is it gives missile reload time, basically, which like a lot of people are like, oh, why the hell would you bring that with like Lizardmen? It's not going to be so useful. But it's cheap and it gives melee attack. So you use that on the Dread Saurian, give him like just rock hard melee attack. It gives him just like great attack, like consistency on the big targets like crabs.
And bristling range attacks from his little howdah.
And he was able to just do great work. He just really took apart the Lamprey's Revenge. Oh, we didn't get to see the bloated corpse. I'm sorry, guys.
Man, yeah, we failed.
I had a conscious note during the game. I was like, I am going to find out where this bloated corpse is. But, you know, then there was like other important plays that were more pertinent to the outcome of the game, although the Bloaty Boy got 25 kills.
Yeah.
He got those tendies.
I mean, yeah, at least some way he got in there. He got those chicken tenders. They did happen across the way one way or another.
So that's going to be game 1 going to Falcon, who is the returning second place finalist in the last EVERCHOSEN.
Yeah, like we said, he's hungering for that. And King of the Dead's not going to take this laying down. Even though that was a very conventional King of the Dead build, very conventional King of the Dead build, it still was able to do quite a bit of damage here. We didn't pull out any kind of crazy stops. But with King of the Dead playing as the Beastman, and now Norska as Falcon, we could see some kind of crazy action going on.
This is a really fun matchup. You get to see Famir fight, and you get to see werewolves fighting against like Centaurs and Minotaurs. It's actually a matchup in which, yeah, I mean, how does Norska want to play this? I think you're going to be using like more durable kind of like Marauders, maybe a couple Marauder champions with shields just to kind of anchor down the front line. And then on top of that, I think you're going to be getting Skinwolves. Skinwolves have anti-large. They lack AP, but against large targets on the Beastman roster, you have Minotaurs, you have Centaurs, things like that, all of which have low armor values. It can be pretty good for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just excited to see Skinwolves. They're werewolves. It's Hugh Jackman come to life in Total War Warhammer. It's great. But I'm just excited.
What does he play werewolf in?
Helsing. Van Helsing.
Oh, yeah, that's like at the very end, right?
God, it's like the best werewolf I've ever seen in a movie, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, spoilers for those of you.
Spoilers who haven't seen Van Helsing.
Yeah, who came out in like 2008.
Came out when I was like in high school or, yeah.
But we're going to be on outskirts here.
This is like one of the most like solid competitive maps. It's really good. Like,
it's got so many elements. It's got little rolling hills. It's got plenty of trees.
You can play open field cannon play. You can really kind of, and if you're playing against that, you have options. It's not like an open field map where you're like, okay, I got to make sure like I'm just going to be blitzing into this cannons to like try and stop them quick. It's a really good map, and it also has a nice little aesthetic. The city of Altdorf here in the distance, looking quite scenic.
It's very fitting for the Beastmen.
Yeah, Beastmen would be raiding. I don't know how Norska. I mean, Norska.
Maybe they get down that far. Who knows?
Yeah,
you know.
Maybe during that.
Maybe they get all the way out there.
But anyways, I guess I'll let you talk about Norska since I know you don't like coves and things like that.
They're disgusting. But hey, you know what? Let's talk about some skin wolves instead. So to start it off, we have big boy Wolfric the Wanderer. Now
he's pretty big up there.
Very commonly, we see him now on his mammoth. You know, he's got a high HP pool. He does a lot of AP. He's got a lot of anti-infantry. And this is
Hunter of Champions is the best though.
Obviously. Now hover over Hunter of Champions for me real quick. Then that's going to help out with some speed, some melee defense, now armor as well. And if you pop this on a lord or hero and you're close to them, and now when you take a look at the majority of the heroes or lord the lord choices for the Beastmen, they're infantry, correct?
Yeah. You have Morkar, you have Malagor, you have unless you want to put Kazarak on the chariot, but
which
I'm
does make him a large.
I think Kazarak's quite terrible, so you're probably not going to see him.
But now that Hunter of Champions is going to help out because you already have that innate AP and that anti-infantry. You'll be able to just buck him around wildly. So getting in addition to that, we're going to see the Frostworm here. Now this bad boy has Frostbite, magic attacks, and AP. In addition, he has his Frost Breath attack.
And the Chilling Aura.
Yes, the Chilling Aura is a speed reduction.
Lower speed by 36%.
There you go, speed by 36%. And the Frostbite does the same thing whenever it hits something. It does lower their speed as well. So anytime that...
Look at the heart of the mammoth.
Got a little heart from Falcon coming out here as the Lord of Dragons himself. Now, the only real good, reliable long distance, I guess you could say, range unit from the Norskins aside from their Hunter Champions, their Javelins, is those Marauder Horsemen. So we're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4 units of those. Now, those are just the normal ones, not the Axe Masters, right?
Yeah, because, again, you don't need a lot of AP against Beastmen, so bringing these guys is much more cost-effective.
Yeah, and they're mobile. They have 90 speed, so they'll be able to get around the battlefield quickly. Now, they do have to watch out. They're shut down by any kind of Centigore play. They will get in a bit of a war.
They can actually kite them okay, though. They're almost the same speed. Because
Centigores have 88?
No, they when their Frenzy is active, their speed is over 90. It's like it's in the mid to low 90s, so they're slightly faster. But again, with good micro, it's pretty insignificant. Plus, the Marauder Horsemen have the Parthian shot, so they can do 360 throwing. So while they're being chased by Centigores, they're actually brought as a countermeasure against Centigores, as a matter of fact. The big issue for these guys is actually Hounds.
Right.
So like Chaos Warhounds catching them and just chewing on their...
Especially if they got poison, it's going to slow them down as well. Now, we're also going to see some Skin Wolf play. 1, 2, 3 whopping Skin Wolves.
They're really good.
Now, AP, anti-large, regeneration, and frenzy. Nice thing, though, or thing to worry about with regeneration is it does increase their weakness to fire. They do have an innate physical resistance, which is going to be nice.
Don't need to worry, though. Beastmen don't have any fire.
Exactly. Against any kind of mundane damage, they have a nice little physical resistance against that. And lastly, we have a Famir Bale Fiend of fire. What kind of spells we have here? I see Screaming Skull, Burning Skull, Cascading Fire Cloak, and Fireball. Now, Fireball can be used in conjunction with Kindle Flame, which is going to reduce that fire magic resistance. But
it's good against Morkar, for sure.
Indeed. Jump into those Beastmen there. I went a little long there. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine, man. You treat yourself.
Treat yourself.
So basically here we have Centigores. Centigores, again, are shielded, and they're relatively fast, so they're going to be doing some kind of skirmishing and just kind of stance dancing here against the Marauder Horsemen. For the rest of the army here, we do have Goreherds with shields and a massive wall of Chaos Spawn coming in from King of the Dead. So these Chaos Spawn are going to just annihilate these Marauders. They have high DPS, they have poison, really good against light armor. Also not bad against Skin Wolves if they're able to get that square engagement. But
just like you were talking about, those Warhounds going right after them.
Yeah, the Warhounds for sure. Morkar the Shadow gave a Deathcaster with Spirit Leech and Buna. Buna probably going to be not used, probably going to be Spirit Leech on the Dragons. But what I really like about Falcon's army is has really good gooning potential. So you get the Frostworm and you stack that with the Hunter of Champions, and you're basically going to be slowing something's speed down to like almost nothing, which is insane. So from there you can isolate, you can pick things off with sniping from Wolfric and the Frostworm, and it's just good and tasty.
And there's not a lot of stuff to threaten that guy in the air outside from Spirit Leech.
Yeah, King's Dead is very much a blitz build. It's just coming in, it's just going to go fisticuffs, and you can see here Wolfric with a big old mammoth charge in the front, but he's going to be getting countercharged here by the Chaos Spawn. Now Spawn don't have the best AP, but nor do mammoths have good armor. 70 is okay, so Wolfric probably doesn't want to stick around here, which is very different than normal Beastman armies. Normal Beastman armies like crumple in the front line, they're very skirmishy, but here Spawn are coming in deep.
Now what's interesting to notice here too is that he's keeping the Famir Bale Fiend with him in conjunction, because Femir Balefin can sunder armor on anything, so if they're trying to do a bit of an alpha gooning attack on something, little burning head coming down.
So this is going to be a big old juicy burning head, which is going to do some light kind of a barbecue here on the destroyers of Drakewald and some of the other spears. A good cast.
Yes.
It goes through the gore herds, it hits some high value spears, certainly not bad, but this Beastmen line is here to stay. The boys are back in town and they're not going to be breaking, because Chaos Spawn, again for any new people watching, they're unbreakable. They're basically these like mutated Chaos beasts that just, they don't care. They're like the Honey Badger, and they're just going to be getting in there. They're going to be just fighting, just going in and holding. But Skin Wolves are really good against him as well, and also Falcon getting a massive circling here.
Look at that.
Marauder Horsemen are a great answer against Chaos Spawn.
Absolutely. I mean, Falcon's got a nice little amount of horsemen around here.
Spawn,
look at this breath attack just coming down onto the spawn, telling them that we built this city on rock and roll, looking to bring down some more damage onto them. You can take a look over there at Wolfric. He is going knee deep with all of the leadership elements, trying to get some damage, but he's surrounded. He's got a lot of spawn around him. He's got the caster and the Lord on him as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky situation for Wolfric. However, if I have to look at this battle and just make a very early assessment, I would say that Falcon is actually in a very dominant position. The Frostworm and company are cleaning up the flanks. They're killing all of the mobile assets for the Beastmen, which is going to give him pretty much an impervious nature as it pertains to his Cav Core here. So he's going to fall back. He's going to kill the Centaurs. Wolfric's going to disengage. And Beastmen are a faction that have a lot of summons. You have Chaos Spawn, you have Manticores. So the Spawn have been summoned. The Beastmen are in a very powerful state right now. If you fall back and you kite out the summoned spawn until they disappear, you're going to be able to come back when they're weakened. And look at this. Just like I was saying, he's killing all of the Centaurs. He's killing the mobile assets, at which point he's going to be able to use those javelins and spears to pick apart these spawn.
Absolutely. And like you were talking about, using that aggression to just pick apart every single one of these units. We got another Burning Head, it looks like, coming down onto those Chaos Spawn. Ripping into things. Chaos, of course, Burning Head does more damage to lightly armored units than these kind of heavier armor, so it's kind of toasting up some of those Ungor Spearmen. But take a look at this. Centaurs being completely broken. They're going to rout off the table now. He does.
Table, I like that.
Yeah, I always say it. It's instinct, you know?
Yeah, play some tabletop.
Now we see these the horsemen now. They're pretty free. They do have to deal with some action over here with the spearmen and the warhounds, but it's just a matter of getting away from them, do some damage back to them, and kind of get back in the main fight. Wolfric is getting chased around that back line.
He's cozy, though.
Yeah,
like,
for the
nothing
most part,
here has mass. Like, there's some spawn behind him, but he should be able to move away from those guys.
Just kind of bulldozing his way downtown.
I mean, arguably, though, there are a lot of spawn, and the Spirit Leech play is very, very strong. He's been using Spirit Leech on the Dragon. But yeah, Falcon very dominant in this part of the battlefield. You guys can see he's kiting, he's pulling apart these guys, he's using the Dragon to peel.
Yes.
So basically anything that poses a threat to either his Skin Wolves or to his Javelins here in the back or his Marauder Horsemen, he's using the Dragon with his Frostbite to slow them down, pin them, and then terror out them because, you know, everything with the exception of the spawn is pretty easy to terror out here. And Wolfric is like the one dicey variable.
I just feel like a carnival song should be playing right now as this guy just kind of trudges along.
Yeah, the Benny Hill.
Yeah, exactly. Just traipsing these whole entire troop behind him.
Now, if King can actually catch Wolfric and somehow get him off the battlefield or kill him using Spirit Leeches and the Spawn. Spawn are pretty quick. They have 42 speed, and Wolfric, when he's poisoned, only has 43. So normally his speed is 56 when he's unpoisoned.
Spirit Leech onto Wolfric, and
this
his
could actually
leadership's getting pretty low.
This could be King's opportunity because Wolfric is going to be needed in the late game to finish off Morkur. Now, even if Wolfric escapes and has, like, let's say 1,500 HP or something like that, he'll be enough to finish off Morkur with some supporting elements. But if he gets caught here and the Dragon has to do the heavy lifting, Morkur is, you know, pretty tanky. But look at this in the distance. The Dragon is feasting.
Yeah, he has found the other Centaurs here. Now, you can see that some Ungors looking to help out as best they can, but those Centaurs are getting completely dumpstered. Now, you have some Chaos Spawn looking to try and tie up that Frostworm, but
a slippery one,
like he's about to probably shoot up right in the air.
And the chilling aura. So the Dragon gives off an aura. Oh, he got staggered. So the Dragon's
he's staying down. Other Chaos Spawn coming in as well.
Oh, man. King needs to get these spawn. He needs to move them over here where my mouse cursor is and pull them in and pin in the Dragon. Attacking from the side here isn't the best.
And Falcon's looking to squeeze out of that one. You can see that
away.
arrow showing it that he's looking to get back around, double back over there. Just like if you're getting chased by a cop, you go left, left, and you're out of that ticket. And you can see over here that Wolfric is in a pretty
They've
hairy
actually kind of
situation.
restabilized here. Like, there's a lot of... And I love this by Falcon.
Ooh, Skin
very,
Wolves.
very conservative, solid play. He's keeping the Skin Wolves back because if you guys take a little bit of a gander over here at the Skin Wolves HP bar, they're going to be healing. They have regeneration, so he's kind of keeping them out of the fight using, you know, Wolfric and just using his javelins. And in the late game, he'll pull those bad boys back in. Oh, what a huge javelin volley doing so much damage to those spawn.
And just tanking them right now. And that's the cool thing here is like you said, Falcon is just taking his time here. He knows he still has this Frostworm back up in the air now. He's got all of his horsemen. He's doing a really good job of just look at that.
Samurai,
just completely
Tom
speared in
Cruise
the face, just chucked it down. It's like
Gatling gun.
It's like watching Last of the Mohicans here, man. It's just disgusting.
Is there a scene like that in Last Mohicans?
Yeah, man.
I think that's Last Samurai.
Both.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's a lot of musket play in Last Will.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
cheat me at Last Will Mohicans, man. That is a great film.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Daniel Day-Lewis, Lost Longhorns.
Yeah, it was a good one, for sure.
Look at that, though. Wolfric jumping in on it.
But so both players basically committing all their resources here. And you guys can see the balance power is actually rather even. And it makes me think, no, he did not get the dragon. So the dragon's going to have to come in and peel. I don't know how Wolfric got caught here, but man, he's a little bit pinned up. So this is the final battle for the fate of Middle-earth. The Skin Wolves fighting against these guys. And again, that anti-large bonus is going to be good. But what's really nice about the Beastmen position is their spawn are saturated with spears. Right. The spears are going to be great against these werewolves here.
And it's also keeping from a full surround. You got Famir on there, which is going to be
Wolfric's in trouble.
Oh, no! But because that Frostworm coming in there to try to help out, he does have the Famir on the Lord to try and get some sundering damage in there. Shutting down that caster, we're getting a nice burning head drop in the background. Again, these are a little bit heavier units, and it might actually do a little more damage to his Skin Wolves than he wants. Ooh, just skirts by him.
Falcon, I think, literally just won the game by getting his dragon and assassinating that Deathcaster. Had he not gotten that play, had the Deathcaster lived, I think that the Beastmen could have been in a position to maybe win this, having, just killed Wolfric.
Yes.
But now that the Deathcaster is gone, there's a ton of Skin Wolves, there's a ton of Skirmishers, and Marauder Infantry are coming back to tar pit Morker. It's going to be pretty tricky for sure.
On top of it, you have the Famir Balefiend, which is going to be sundering the armor of Morker. That's their innate ability when they do damage.
He has, no armor anyway.
So sunder.
Yeah, he's got his rock hard 15 armor there, but what's really good is Marauder Horsemen here are actually chasing off the Deathcaster. So for anyone who's new to the game, whenever, let's say you break a high value unit, you have a big duel, you have King Lu and Leon Kerr fighting against a Throg. You beat down Throg is running. Chase him off with Yeoman or something cheap. You don't need to allocate an expensive unit to chase off a unit, because once it's broken, it doesn't matter what's chasing it, it'll still run.
And you can see here that Falcon's just kind of keeping Wolfric in the background. He knows he's pretty beat up and weak.
I thought he got Wolfric.
Yeah, he just limped back in.
He just emerged from the trees.
And he's just staying there. I mean, if they lose it, that's a lot of leadership they're going to lose, so it's just going to stay there and watch as Morger gets torn apart by Skin Wolves, by Frostworms, by Balefiends tickling him with their purple claw.
Doesn't Morker have some weird lore that whenever he gets killed, he just reappears somewhere?
Yes.
How does that work exactly with him? Yeah.
I couldn't remember off the top of my head right now. But Hunter of Champions dropping onto that Famir Balefiend. I haven't played Beastmen since 6th edition.
And you hate the hoofed ones anyways.
Beastmen and Greenskin lore, I'm like, yeah, that happened.
Yeah, fair play, fair play. Well, Morker is going to get spit roasted by this dragon. He is not unbreakable. He's going to be running back to the hills, and negative 156. And with that, the Dark Lord, one of many Dark Lords. The second of the
Dark Lords.
The father of dragons, the champion of Russia. Falcon comes in with a steel chair with a 2-0 victory. Very close games. Now, the 2-0 is certainly not indicative of how good those games were.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Falcon coming in with the 2-0, and he's going to be advancing to the semifinals
He's
tomorrow.
going in.
Yeah.
And I'm stoked.
Who's he facing?
He's going to be facing against Lon Soothsayer. We're going to get a rematch of the finals of the last EVERCHOSEN. So it's going to be Falcon and Sooth going at it in the semifinals.
Dude, I'm
so
hyped.
that is going to make day 2.
So many good games tomorrow, man.
From just the start, day 2 is just going to be frothy. Yeah. It's not going to wait until the 3rd place or the finals to really get going. We're going to see some intense matches. And I mean, Falcon brought a lot of awesome things. He
brought the business. Dude,
I mean,
the Dread Saurian.
The Dread Saurian. Then he brought Wolfric on a Mammoth.
He's a true hero of the people.
Yeah, and a Frostworm. That's his thing, though. On top of it, Skin Wolves aplenty. Yeah. There was so much fun.
Skin Wolves are really good.
Absolutely.
This build that Falcon brought was very meta. It was very I would say it's pretty standard. Nothing is super out of the ordinary there. But the first game, the Dread Saurian, oh my god, that was probably one of my highlights of the first day. But granted, let us not undersell the glory of the mighty King of the Dead bringing a bloated corpse. Now, I'm sorry again, we didn't get the best footage, but
man,
perhaps
hopefully the cinematic cam got it.
Maybe, just maybe tomorrow. We'll try and get maybe we'll have him send us the replay and we'll see if we can mix it in somewhere.
Let's bring it up on the Jumbotron, Bob. There it is. There's the bloated corpse just getting a huge kill. I could buy a hot dog for that one.
That'll be great. So yeah, that's gonna kind of wrap it up for day 1, man. Falcon going to be advancing on, and we got our semifinals all lined up.
Yeah, I'm excited for day 2. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's been a pleasure casting with you so far.
You know what? Hey,
as always, man.
It's been a pleasure casting with you.
Yeah.
And this, of course, this is our 1-year anniversary of being over here in the lovely UK. This started from humble beginnings, now over to the big studio in which it is now.
Yeah, big time.
But we're going to toss things back across. I'm Italian Spartacus. This is Turin.
It is I, Turin.
Signing off to you guys. We're going to toss it back over to Lore Master of Sotek and Party Elite.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we had a bit of an issue. Apparently Italian messed with a lich staff of Kotep or something, and we got silenced. It was kind of a whole thing.
So I was just about to mention that was an amazing half because not only did every match have 2 players, it had backup vocals with some great sound effects going on.
Yeah, I know.
There. But that was a very insane half. Though.
Those were maddening games.
We saw some ridiculous stuff. What was your favorite moment?
The Dreadsaurian.
Yeah, I knew.
Who wins with the Dreadsaurian?
That's the thing. When we saw the Dreadsaurian pop up, it was just like, are we doing this? They know this is a live game right now, right? But I mean, the performance there though was.
I thought Falcon was just memeing, but no, he was there to win.
and it was all again. It was kind of like a bit of a prediction going on there in terms of knowing there won't be a massive gun line to just eliminate that Dreadsaurian, and it stuck around.
And I think for all the Everchosens we've had, I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've gone flat 2-0s through the whole day.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's that momentum that I was mentioning earlier. It's just like. You win the first one, you have that extra kind of feel, that mental strength. You go in and you win the second one, and it just back to back to back to back. That was insane to see.
So of the games we've seen today, especially of the last, so we'll start with the last 4. Do you have like a favorite matchup that we saw?
You know what? It's kind of got to be the one with the Dreadsaurian. I mean, unexpected build, unexpected moves. That was insane.
I mean, it couldn't have worked if that had been a normal Vampire Coast build. That's the funny thing.
That's
it's
exactly
like Falcon was you can tell Falcon has been studying how King plays.
Right.
Because, Turin mentioned that King tends to avoid powder-heavy builds. He likes to go more of like a melee focus or take unconventional weapons like bombs. And so Falcon must have been sitting there going, there's no thing to kill my big dino.
Yep. Unleash that apex predator, and it is very much an apex predator. Got that king crab for lunch. Gonna have dragons for dinner. Scare them off, Lustria, right? But I must have made you happy.
Oh yeah, Lizardman had a great showing today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Overall, I was thrilled with the Lizard plays.
What was your favorite matchup?
Well, I think still for me that earlier today the Empire versus Lizardman match was pretty special.
Right.
Haven't seen Croc in a long time. At least I haven't personally in competitive play. And that game had a really interesting dynamic. I can't even remember the last time I saw a game that could so clearly be split up into early skirmish phase and then late game fight to the death phase.
Absolutely. And that to me was like the most from the first half, that was the most interesting battle because it's just like, yeah, you can tell that it's almost like a story arc. Where it starts with the skirmishing, some very interesting units on display as well, and then we go through the middle, we get to the climax and the resolution where it's just like, oh wow, that just happened.
So names-wise, who are we looking at for matchups tomorrow?
I mean, I believe if we take a look at the matchups real quick, tomorrow we're going to have Aerocrasic against Yellin Ollie as our first semifinal, and our second semifinal is Tlaxlan Soothsayer versus Falcon.
So we got one new face jumping up into the semis, but of course it's Soothsayer's sparring partner apparently. So not a ton of surprise, but he is kind of he's very mysterious. Like I know very little about him, so it's almost like this kind of
bit of a dark horse, wild card kind of a
yeah, words right out of my mouth. It's kind of this creeping shadow coming up behind everybody.
Absolutely.
So I'm really curious, and he was ruthless. Like Zyphus is such a great player.
I know that was.
But Yellin Ollie was like terrifying.
Completely unforgiving, completely just pushing in super aggressively. Those games were a lot of fun as well.
I mean, so Arrow's going to have his workout for him.
Exactly.
And then we've got Soothsayer versus Falcon, which is a rematch of last year's finals.
Right, yeah, and how did that play out, just to inform those that may have missed it?
It was amazing. I mean, we went to 5 games, and each game was so intense.
Right. Well, the thing is, there's so much to play for right now, right? We've got, I mean, especially with like Tlaxlan Soothsayer, in my opinion, the treble, like the hat trick, the treble. There's a big kind of a there's a thing there, right? Getting 3, not in a row per se, but being the first to 3. That's a big milestone, and so there's a lot of pressure there.
I mean, this is Arrow's chance to match him, or Falcon, taste. He could taste it last time, and it avoided him right at the end.
And this time, I mean, as we saw, playing like an absolute madman there, just doing some funky stuff and focusing on some slightly stranger approaches.
Oh yeah,
and coming out on top.
Yeah, but I mean, and it was cool to see a lot of different matchups. I'm almost surprised at some of the really popular heavy hitting factions we didn't see today. I mean, we saw stuff like Warriors of Chaos, but like not a lot of Tomb Kings per se, not a lot of Dark Elves either today either.
Yeah.
But I mean, the place we did see, there was a lot of Lizardmen.
There was a lot of Lizardmen,
and
yes.
I actually haven't seen them around too much in recent, because I watch a lot of tourneys every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because the tourney scene is very active right now, which is great. And there were just some. I feel like every game I was sitting down and I was like, oh, I could see this going one way or the other. I look at the list and I'm like, what is going on here?
Happening? Yeah. No, it's kind of insane. But I mean, again, so today the matchups are sort of known a little bit going into it, but tomorrow it's all over the place. We're going to see surprise matchups. So even though these guys practice and they train, basically they have sparring partners, going into today's matches they had some bit of an idea what they might be up against, but tomorrow it's going to be fire everywhere, uncertainty.
Oh, yeah.
Until it's game time.
And it's very wild that tomorrow is really special because when you go into the semis you do gentleman's agreement again. There's enough time for them to talk to each other,
right?
Which I kind of mentioned earlier, when you're playing in the EVERCHOSEN, there's a lot of politics to that, of trying to siege your opponent. Like, your opponent doesn't want you to take their best factions unless they get their best faction. And so you're kind of trying to come to a agreement that allows you both to be at your strengths.
Right.
So there's a lot of interesting plays there, but then we get into the third place match in the finals where there is no gentleman's agreement.
Right.
It's a pick ban system, and that's where stuff gets really crazy.
Yep. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? It gets down to that end, and you just gotta sprinkle in a little bit of that extra zazz where you don't know what's coming. You don't know what's coming.
And the thing about those unpredictable builds that I love so much, at least for the EVERCHOSEN, is that if you take a build that's really, really strong, your opponent's going to expect it.
Right.
But like taking a Dreadsaurian, for instance, or having that the heavy Pterodon Croc build against the Empire, like those are builds that you don't see.
Right.
Which it is a risk in that if your opponent manages to bring a really strong list,
right,
they're going to potentially be able to easily just smack it.
Absolutely.
But it's kind of like playing 4D chess. You're like, okay, my opponent expects I'm going to do this.
Right.
That means he would expect me to do this. So I'm actually going to do this
other thing. Yeah. Well, it's high risk, high reward, right? That's the name of the game sometimes, and we saw a lot of that today. I mean, there was really, I think nothing comes close to the overlapping Vanguard deployment that we saw.
Oh yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, the Greenskins versus thank you, Wild, thank you. Greenskins versus what Elves? That was him, not me.
I'm ashamed of myself.
That was insane. The ridge didn't matter at all. They just dropped on top of each other. Everything could see everything.
Yeah,
Two spiders.
I thought the Greenskins were doomed because they were in the bad position there.
Right.
And then nope.
It's lots of insanity all day today. And you know what I thought was really funny actually? We saw a ton, especially in the first half, we saw a ton of Gotrek and Felix.
Oh yeah. Dahv did an awesome job repping Gotrek and Felix.
Yeah.
And we also got to see him, of course, in the show match, in which of course, if you liked what you saw with Gotrek and Felix, you can go on to Total War Access and pick them up. It was great to see them, and that they're difficult to use, and a lot of people are still kind of figuring them out.
That's exactly it.
They're fresh on the roster.
That's exactly it. It's just like, that's why I guess I was so surprised to see them so often, because they're still sort of like, they have their place in the armies, but they performed very well when they were used, and I just wasn't expecting that risk to be taken.
Yep, and of course, if you're enjoying the games you've seen so far, you can actually pick up the game yourself. We've got Warhammer 1, I think, is running at a 75% discount right now, and we've got Warhammer, and they've got, not me, they've got Warhammer 2 running, I think it's 66%
off,
and a lot of the DLCs are on discount too.
Right, exactly.
So it's a great time to, if you saw that Dreadsaurian and it blew your mind, you're like, A, I love that thing, but B, I can actually win with it.
Right.
Then you can go check out, some of the DLCs to get a lot of access to those new units.
And not just that, but just an important reminder that there is a whole other half to the game that we don't even touch on in EVERCHOSEN.
Oh yeah, that's like what I do. That's what I do.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a whole grand campaign where you're building your empire and building your units and then sending them off to these battlefields.
Yeah, this is the bonus.
Fight. This is exactly.
But
this
it's
is
a great
the cream. No, absolutely insane. So it's been, I would say it's been a solid day of fights.
I kind of felt like a blinked and we're here.
I know.
So,
yeah.
But thanks everyone so much for joining us. It's been a crazy day, and if you want to,
it's just gonna get crazier tomorrow. So make sure you don't miss us tomorrow when we get to the semis and then the finals. It is going to be absolutely ridiculous. Thank you all for joining us from the studio here. Till tomorrow. Stay soon.
me.